Good morning, everyone. Welcome to Trader TV Live. All four major indexes starting out the week red, with the NQ down over 1%, the ES likewise, down 0.99, the Dow 0.81, the Russell faring the best of the four, down 0.2%. Speaking of the Russell, lots of small cap gappers already running here. The pre-market with Watt up over 267%. Likewise with NLSP. We'll keep an eye out on these small cap gappers. Bitcoin as well, starting the day out red, down below 94,000 at about 93,200. We'll keep an eye out on support, but it is Nat Gas starting out the morning quite aggressively here, up 16 2/3% on the back of Ukraine not extending the deal with Russia to allow Russian nat gas to pass through. Lots of other equity names to talk about today. Adara, we got Boeing, sadly, in the news again, but some other more important, I guess, not as bad headlines.
That's a good way of putting it. Not as bad is a great way. There's not like really any exciting or uplifting headlines. Nvidia, though, reportedly working on this robotics. Jetson Thor is going to be the name that's going to be coming in early 2025, as reported by Financial Times. And also, they talked to one of NVIDIA's VPs of robotics. So this looks like this is basically confirmed. Tesla and all of these EVs also on watch as well, ahead of the deliveries, which are expected to be reported on January 2nd. Tesla last year reported 1.81 million deliveries for 2023. Let's see how they fare 2024. Sure.
All right, guys. Already have most of these equity Mag 7 names in the red. What is your look this morning? Good morning.
Good morning, and I don't know where this Santa Claus rally is going.
Good morning.
It ain't happening right now, that's
Santa
for
Claus
sure.
rally?
Well, we're supposed to have a few more days left. Like it's first couple of days into the new year is when you're supposed to hold the Santa Claus rally till. But on my quote board, the only things green are natural gas, volatility. I guess oil's up a little bit. TLT's up a little bit as well. So it's not looking that great. That said, you know, if you saw, on Friday, all you had to do was have some shorts, right? So it's, at the end of the day, you're going to be able to trade, and direction doesn't matter as long as there is movement in that direction. Tesla 420 is already here, so we're not going to have to wait too long for any key levels. Nvidia is going to be in play, that headline over robotics. Cool, but not really doing much to the trend. Got Palantir up here, and unfortunately, Boeing. Yeah, you hate to see the loss of life, and hopefully that investigation, they find out whatever the issue was. I heard it was a bird strike, but you never really know with these kind of things. And rest in peace to Jimmy Carter, 100 years old.
I know, I saw
Former
that
President Carter,
like, wow.
100.
I was more impressed with that. I was like, wow, 100.
That'll work.
100 is the new 50.
Well, I wouldn't go that far.
Yeah, that might be. I was with my grandmother yesterday, 94.
Well, that's what.
We'll take it.
That'll mean.
I'll take it. That'll work. Anyways, yeah, good one. Yeah, looking around here, I don't know. Like, besides, you just mentioned some of the energy names. Google's at this 190 level here. I actually wonder too if Apple loses. I'm definitely short bias today for sure. Like, there's so many levels that I feel like could be breaking soon. Like Apple back into this 150 area. Nice little drip all Friday. I actually said on the way in today, driving in, I was like, oh man, like it's too bad today's Tuesday. I said that to Marissa. I was like, today's Monday, yeah. Because I have no idea, I still have no idea what day it is. But there it is right there. This 253 goes back to last week. If we break this little shelf here, I think Apple could be in a little bit of trouble right here. So, profit taking up there if anybody was able to, in and around 260. I haven't taken anything off the top in this recent, move down here. But, yeah, Apple looking like it's a little bit tipsy-turvy there. And then our friend Palantir here underneath 80 right now, 77. So this is starting to get spicy as well. Down 3%. And the names that are a little bit, like we said, have been going on some runs will be the ones sort of pulling back a little bit here. DraftKings down that 1% as well, another name that looking to buy. And then I was even saying to Neil, like, I was surprised Uber is not too much below 60 yet.
It's holding that pretty well.
Maybe this is the hold level, because when it goes, it tries to go. It got to 63, 64 a couple times. But right now, yeah, down in the 1%. Pretty much everything you're going to look at is going to be down 1%. Yeah, Bitcoin 93. So we can. I have it down here as well as Ethereum, and then we also wanted to look at. Oh, there was one more. Oh, FFIE Faraday there on delivery, starting to get going. So that's 25% right there. I'm actually going to try a $2 long. So I'm bidding right here $2.
Somebody new on Friday for Faraday.
Yeah, you were saying people were all about that.
You guys were all excited about Faraday, and there you go. Good delivery numbers. It's one of the volume leaders. So like, it might be if you're not looking at natural gas or small caps, it could be one of those days where looking for longs is not going to be there. Maybe you can look at energy. I think because they have some exposure into nat gas, Oxy looks decent today. This could be worth having up. There's not much that looks incredibly bullish, so I'm going to have this one on the old watch as it could break out. Come to the chart here. Yeah, it's a bit of a rounded bottom on Oxy, and if it can get through like this here at 49.20 or so, this is one that I might want to add to the list. When you look at your quote board, most of them today aren't going to be incredibly. My guess is it's not going to be incredibly bullish. So you want to look for some ideas out there. I never want to have only things that I'm looking short. You know, I want to see something at least a little bit strong. And this looks like a nice little rounded bottom into a potential breakout here on Oxy. So I'm going to have this one for sure on watch. Not a lot of volume, so I'll wait till the open for that one to suss itself out. Let's go back to the desk where the professor's locked and loaded.
Ooh, professor.
Down 0.5% this morning. Is Bitcoin still holding that $90,000 area, though? Not much in terms of volatility on the weekend, but there was this article on the weekend, more details coming out of what a cryptocurrency reserve plan could look like under the incoming Trump administration. So he's widely spoken about creating a national reserve. So now he's actually giving more details, possibly selling gold certificates to fund Bitcoin. So let's have a look here. There's a senator by the name of Senator Cynthia Loomis, who's got a Bitcoin Act proposal over here. Under her plan, she wants to acquire about 1 million Bitcoins over the span of about 5 years, with restrictions on selling for 20 years subsequent. Alternatives include other custody models as well. It should be noted, the U.S. government holds, give or take about 200,000 Bitcoins that they were acquired through forfeitures, usually through criminal investigations, Adara. And MicroStrategy is taking this opportunity as well, and the drop in price.
Yeah, when have they really not been true? This is the third Monday in a row we've heard that they're buying more Bitcoin, and guess what? They did announce around 8 a.m., as per usual, that they have purchased some more Bitcoin, saying that between December 23rd, so last Sunday, and yesterday, they sold just under 600,000 shares valued at $209 million. They used that $209 million to buy just over 2,000 Bitcoin at just under 98,000 per Bitcoin. So more Bitcoin purchases here for MicroStrategy. This would again mark the third Monday in a row.
All right, guys, still down 0.5% today. Not much really happening. What's your look over here?
You know, we just broke, by the way, we just broke the lows on the Nasdaq and the ES, and Nvidia's now through 134 just tagged on Nvidia. Tesla broke 420, that's at 419. So, I mean, you look at MicroStrategy, you're going to be doing so through a lens of, well, the stock was weak. It's still weak. Bitcoin's bounced off 92. At least that's the good sign. But the flat bottom support here on MicroStrategy that was there at 3.25 looks like it's going to be a bit of a sell. It's not at the top of my list. We're going to be looking at some other names for some shorts, some chip names, and we're going to talk about Tesla. But the good news for Bitcoin, I would say, is you're still holding on to that original dip that we had on the fail of 100,000. Like that first one, that little flash crashy type of move that we had into the 92 area, that's still holding. So I think if we lose 92, then you could really see like another like 4 or 5. Okay, I don't know if the 90,000 level is going to matter as much, but yeah, you still got some support down there on BTC. But it could be a bit of a range break here. You just got to be able to separate it, because MicroStrategy and Mara, those are the ones that you want to short when we start breaking these ledges, because they're going to move a heck of a lot more percentage-wise. And if anything, I think in BT, like when looking for the longs, I'd be looking for longs off support in Bitcoin and the shorts on all of the alternatives, like, the equities that we can play. So yeah, not a very good look, but hey, you're still above 92,000. That has yet to break. I think the mid 80s is where I like it if we lose 92, but that's still a long ways away.
Yeah, I mean, look, we've talked about watching this 15-period moving average, or the 200-period moving average on a 15-minute chart. It's still been pretty good. So you might, again, 95,000 bouncing around. So to me, you gotta. We talked about getting long if it ever broke this 97,307 or 97,400 just before the weekend. That never even came close, and you're still like, here's a cluster, here's a cluster, here's a cluster here. Like it's lower, 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 right? And so you're like here, 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 and now you're trying to base out going back about 2 weeks back into this 92,000 area. So I think Bitcoin's going to be a long down here, but when it breaks on Nasdaq, sort of sentiment to the downside, I think that's what's eventually going to wind up happening. Is the Nasdaq's going to retest? I marked down 21,000 for the Nasdaq. We'll talk a little bit broader market when we get back. We have Michael Noss waiting to come through, but this 88,000 could be a spot. We talked about that's where our next sort of area of bids are located for Nasdaq for Bitcoin. So let's wait to see what winds up happening here, but. When we were here, I made the call that it was a good chance that we would see 50, I thought, before we saw 150. And we got up to 108. So you kind of go 8 above 100. Now you're 8 below 100. And 100 is going to be this magnet once again. So, we spent, what was it, maybe a couple weeks, not even, maybe a little bit more than that, above this 100,000. And then since we've been below it, it's kind of the same thing here, about a week and a half now underneath. So we'll be able to watch it. And then the other name, we always talk about IBIT and things like that, but the stock that many traders look at, and we once, not first, but I remember talking about this with Michael a long time ago, and this name was in and around $10. Marathon. So this is going to be another one pretty negative here into what we see as becoming possibly, with more halving cycles and things like that coming through. I mean, mining's not getting any easier. It's nice that they're ahead of the game with all the equipment and everything, but at the end of the day, it's not getting any easier. So I would still say a fall into $15 here for Mara is probably what's coming, and something that's an appropriate area to start buying if you're into it. But again, fading, and Michael will tell you this, obviously, but catching this falling knife, like you're underneath here now, the 50 period, that's starting to turn sideways and then sloping down. And then obviously the 200 has now been breached on Friday or Thursday, and there's the move back in now. So yeah, Mara, not looking very healthy. I think you got to wait a minute in crypto land, I think, for now. But all right, that's good. Thank you so much, everybody, for watching here on what's going to be hopefully a busy day. I mean, with the Nasdaq making these moves today, you never know. Although hey, Michael, there he is. There in there. I just want to say, with all of this stuff happening, the Nasdaq is like trigger happy. Any of these things could just fall on if there's no more bidders, no more buys, nobody on the bid side of this Nasdaq could fall quite a bit. It's already down 1.32. We came in here and it was only down 1%.
Yeah.
Now you've fallen another third of a point here. We were down 2.5 or something like that, or maybe 2 and a bit on Friday, and before rallying in a little bit into the close. Looks like we're giving that all back and more.
Dump it so they can buy it back in the new year.
That would be. We've talked about tax harvesting here.
Although that's now passed because
the date is now gone. But the thing is that you would think that they would be buying some of these names back up. So. But we'll wait. I mean, the thing is, the market has these things. Like a healthy pullback is probably. Remember, the Dow had 12 or 13 straight down days.
Yeah, exactly.
It's not like it's not capable of happening again, and we don't have the greatest news out there. Although I was speaking with Baxter, and he was saying that Intel maybe has some kind of value at some of these levels. He was just saying that the price of the chips for the performance of them are actually getting to be more on the positive side. That they don't have those elite Hopper and all these kind of names that these hyperscalers are going to be flocking to. But for the general public, because he works with a lot of VC, he is a venture capitalist. But at the end of the day, a lot of the companies that he works with, some of these lower end chips are working just fine. So yeah,
not everyone's going to be able to afford.
Well, that was
to stick with Nvidia.
That was it.
That's one stock that's just all they need is a half decent quarter, and then it's.
I mean, Baxter's cost me so much money. It's like I'm going to put it into one of his stock advices here.
Why not?
I don't know.
Let's see what Michael is saying, because I'd love to.
He's not saying buy Intel.
I guarantee.
Maybe he is.
I will go on a limb and say Michael Noss is not saying buy Intel. I'm pretty sure about that. Let's see.
Find out what it thinks about Intel in a second. I thought I was going to open up today's slides, Michael. I was going to see nat gas. I was going to see the rounded bottom, perhaps
nat
the breakout. You know, we've
Yeah.
been talking about nat gas for so long. Today was the day, but we're going to talk about the upcoming new year. Good morning.
Good morning. Yeah, I'm going to try not to tap myself in the back too hard about that nat gas, but I know we were chatting about that recently, and yeah, it's going to be a fun day, I think. Now, again, it's natural gas, so it could close red at this point, and it wouldn't shock me at all.
All right, Michael, we're going to talk about the January effect. We kind of did this last year, if my memory serves me right. We're going to talk the quantitative effect of how we started off the year and what implications that has for the rest of the year. Take us through it.
Yeah, absolutely. And my present from Santa actually came in. So just shout out. This is where I get a lot of the data from. The Stock Traders Almanac is fantastic. They've been doing this kind of seasonality work for a very long time. I'm not a huge seasonality guy, but I talked a lot about the election seasonality. That came true, you know, exactly like it was going to. And then I like this kind of Santa Claus rally January effect, because both of those make sense to me, right? So we're going to talk about the January effect. We're going to talk about reverse window dressing. I don't have a whole lot of charts, so sadly you're going to have to look at my face for a lot of this. But this one to me makes a lot of sense because we have two common rules. We have two, the whole death and taxes. Those are, you can't avoid them. So the January effect is actually a lot about taxes. So the chart I have on the top here is the S&P 500. For the entire year, you can see a nice drift higher. This has moved pretty dramatically higher. The lower chart, I actually just have IWC. You could also use IWM just to show that the small caps and the micro caps, they didn't have as good of a year. This was very much a large cap centric type year. So what does this mean? Now, pretend you're a portfolio manager and you're trying to track the index. So you probably have a lot of these large names in it. You have Nvidia, you have Tesla, you have a lot of these names that are hitting new all-time highs. They're massive names. Well, you're thinking about the tax man, as we all are, as the year comes to an end. So quite often, you'll get this drift higher into the end of the year, potentially ending around now. I think it's T+1 or T+2, I forget what the Americans are at, for settlement, that you have to have your trades in order to make sure that you're locking in the gains for this year. But if I have Nvidia, I don't want to pay the tax this year. I might pay the tax next year, right? So you'll get this drift into the end of the year where people are selling their losers because they can tax loss harvest those, and they're going to hold on to their winners and just delay having to pay that tax bill just another couple days. So what ends up happening is actually the first 5 days, which is a very interesting rule. So the first 5-day rule talks about how quite often you can take a look at the first 5 days of the month of January in particular, and it has an 83% hit rate. If those first 5 days of January are positive, there's an 83% chance that the year will actually end up positive. Now, before everyone gets too excited, I got to put statistics, right? I run a website called Stats Ed Trading. So, right, I got to put statistics in order. There's a 75% chance all the time that the market's up, right? You put your finger at any point in history on the S&P 500 chart, there's a 75% chance you're up a year from there, right? So it's a little bit better, but that's still, to me, statistically significantly better than that. You got an 85% chance with this first 5 days. So we're going to pay close attention. The reason I think that this makes sense is how aggressively are they trying to grab this tax benefit, right? So again, let's just use Nvidia because it was up so much this year. If I am itching to sell Nvidia, but I'm just going to wait until January because I want to defer that tax bill, but I really want to sell it, that kind of gives a good theme of what's happening in these investment managers, these hedge fund managers' heads, right? They want out, but they just don't want to pay the tax bill, so they're going to wait a couple days. If they're like, hey, I still like Nvidia, I still want to hold it, I'm not just going to sell it because it's a new year, then that gives us another picture into these institutions' heads. So, right, everyone can come out and they can do their year-end targets and blah, 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 blah. But what do they actually do with their money? I think that's the important thing. So this is why the first 5 days, to me, I think is really important. How aggressive are we going to see institutions sell? So that's what's interesting. And then the same with, it's just, so goes January, so goes the year, is the saying, and that's the January barometer. So it's the same idea that if January is higher, then there's an 80% chance that the year is higher. So that's only a little bit better than the 75% chance, but that's still pretty significant. So we want to pay attention to these two things. The first 5 days is very, very important with an 85% chance. And then so goes January, so goes the year. So the next chart I have is actually from Carson Research. Great firm, does a lot of this kind of stuff. The idea is, with this January effect, not only the fact that it's going to move higher, but how much it's going to move higher. So I'll just explain this. So if we start at the far right column, this is the average of all years. On average, 75% chance that the S&P 500 is up, roughly 8%, give or take, right? You know, that's roughly what the market does year over year based off this data going back to 1950. If January is higher, then you have an 86% chance that we are up on average 12%. That's a 50% greater return. That's pretty significant. And then if you have a negative January, you only have a 60% chance that we're higher. And on average, it's only 2.1%. So these are averages. The market can just completely buck these trends, but they're really, really good to know. So if we are up in January, then we know that on average, we're going to have a good year, and that year on a percentage basis is going to be really good. And if we're down in January, still a better than 50-50 chance we're up, but it's not as good, right? With that 2.1% gain as opposed to a 12% gain. This last chart is kind of interesting, a little bit scary. This is what happens if this doesn't occur. So what happens if we don't get the first 5 days and we don't get the January effect? So we're down the first 5 days and we're down January. These are kind of all of the years that both of those occurred. And there's some pretty ugly years. There's a couple green years, right? The green is up, I think, more than 8%, so more than the average. The yellow is up, but less than the average. And then all the red is down. So you can see if we don't get, based off of history, this chart that I found actually stopped in 2022, but we know what happened in 2022. It wasn't a great year. So this shows that if these don't happen, that we could have a bit of a hard time. So we need to really pay close attention to these numbers, but I just want to give the kind of last caveat that these are averages, right? There's, the average man has 1.9 arms, right? So you never generally get the average, but it just goes to show that there is some statistical significance on what's going to happen in the next week and the next month. So we should pay very close attention to that.
This is really interesting because we're so cap heavy right now, especially with the with the non-equal weighted ETFs, and obviously the S&P and the Nasdaq being so heavily weighted with the Mag 7. Do you think that there's a possibility that even though maybe we start January negative, Michael, that some of the laggards, let's call them, the mid caps, the small caps, they end up catching up? And I don't want to say that they're going to influence the index itself, but do they catch a bid? Is that a possibility where some of the heavier names retrace a little bit because they've been so strong, and some of these other smaller names catch up?
I'm actually super glad you asked that question because I meant to talk about this in my ramble. There's just a lot of data there. And again, I'm a huge data nerd, so I love this. But yes, that's generally speaking what we want to see happen. So let's say I'm selling my Nvidia and I've made all that money off it. In bear markets, you'll generally raise cash. You'll go to cash, you'll buy bonds, you'll buy safe kind of assets. In bull markets, if we are going to continue this bull market, then you want to take those gains and you want to buy something with them. So quite often what you have is that the names that had the tax loss selling going into the end of the year, this revision may happen, right? So I'm holding on to Nvidia, but I'm selling, I don't know, I hate to pick on AMC, but it's just down every year. So AMC, I'm holding Nvidia and I'm selling AMC. Well, at the end of the year, what I may do is I may reverse those. I may take some profits in Nvidia and I may go back to some of the names that I sold in order to generate the tax loss, and I may buy those back. I think it's 30 days you have to wait for tax rules. Again, I'm not an accountant, but you'll quite often see this revision happen where people will take profits from the winners and then maybe they'll buy some of those laggers that they think still have a chance. They just sold because they wanted to get that tax benefit from it. So yeah, quite often you have this little revision. Part of the January effect that I didn't mention is actually that if these end up going strong, quite often you'll have an outperformance of small and micro caps because, again, they're buying back these names that were weak all year to try to get exposure back after the tax rules say that they can.
It's going to be really interesting to see, Michael, coming up. We have this day, tomorrow, the last 2 trading days of the year. We'll have to see how they all start out. Then we get a fresh one on Thursday. We'll see you Friday. Hopefully, you'll be able to give us a nice introduction into the year, and hopefully we'll catch a nice little bit there, Michael. Thank you for being on. Are you on the Aftermarket show today?
Absolutely. I'll see you guys there.
See you then.
All right. Talk to you soon.
See you then, Michael. And look, as he said, that big chart that with all the red on it, 5 days in a row to start red in January, and then ending red in January. Like that's what would need to happen for any of those stats to hold true. So yeah, obviously you want to be paying attention to that momentum. I think when you start looking at some of these things, you look at, okay, well, what would pull back? Like what would pull back the most if we have a down year in some of the tech names? I mean, I have like right now I'm looking at Broadcom just because it's been a good stock. And it's actually down more. I thought really there were a couple of other chip names that would be down more, but it's actually down the most of the chip names at 3%. And you start to think about, okay, well, what were the biggest runners? What are the ones where there's a lot of profit taking that can come in here? And where would those opportunities lie? Because to me, I sort of think it the other way. Like when you buy and hold long term, if we get that phenomenon in January, I start thinking about what are the stocks that I would want a dollar cost average into on the year in any kind of a weak year, or what are the price levels of stocks maybe I don't own or things that I like, and it would lead me to, hey, a couple of levels in January potentially on Broadcom, like back in that 200 level. I think those kinds of things you got to start thinking about. But just as before we go to upgrades and downgrades, wanted to point out we're now 1.5. Crossed 1.5 down on the Nasdaq, almost 1.6, and the ES 1 1/3 already. So the weakness that started when we sat down is still pretty much unabated. Let's see what some upgrades and downgrades are going to tell us.
Upgrades outweighing the downgrades today here, starting with American Airlines getting the nod from Raymond James with a $24 price target. They were on watch last week with that Christmas Eve flight delay, but they've recovered pretty nicely from that drop. Then we have Big Bear AI. This one's been on watch for the last few weeks as well. Down in the day right now, but getting an upgrade from H.C. Wainwright. H.C. Wainwright also upgrading Nuvalent. And then we have Wedbush giving Rocket Pharma an upgrade. Only 2 downgrades here, starting with Nordstrom getting a downgrade from Argus. We know Nordstrom has reportedly been looking to take the company private, so JWN could be on watch here. Then we have Polaris with a downgrade from Robert W. Baird. So not many downgrades for our second last trading day of 2024. See you guys.
Analysts are still on vacation.
Muted. Oh, okay. It's funny that there's not enough downgrades on that board. I mean, you know what? Like looking at some of those quantum names today too. Like Google's starting to head to the downside there, that QBTS, Rigetti, some energy coming out of some of these names today as well. So, watch out for some of these, like just downgrading. Feels like this quantum space, for today anyways, on that. And I didn't see any on that list there. I was just thinking as a space in general here. QBTS also down that 6%. And the reason why I put down Google on the watch list or on the sticky note today is because of that same thing. Like they got a big sort of boost up there with quantum as well, right? And now you're starting to fade back out a little bit. So you want to talk about names that have had some decent runs over the last month and a half or so. I mean, many names, but one that was beat up for a bit and then finally got going, only to hit highs and now fading pretty good as well. There is Google. So this is another name that's going to be at risk today for losing some of these levels. So I wrote down here for Google that sure we'd like to get, again, the market just keeps on going down. Like when we're looking at this name before, it's 190.50, 191. And I'm like, let's short 192, just because that was the close on Friday. Well, now we're running away from this level. So we're going to get a little more aggressive and probably short. We'll watch to see what happens around 190, but for Google, it's going to be an idea for me there as well. Then you said Nordstrom's obviously on the buyout there. So
yeah, I think just Nordstrom's, by the way, it's pretty much done. They're not expecting a higher bid than the take private. I think at $24.25, if memory serves. So I don't think that ends up tradable. Although if it were to do something like weird, I suppose you could have a look at it, but I would suspect that's not going to move. But that list, BBAI, I guess, would be interesting. But as you said, like some of these the quantum names, AI names, even with an upgrade, this has a short float, it's down 3%, and it doesn't look very strong. Under normal circumstances, if this was doing volume on an upgrade, you might consider it has a chance to break that double top. I just don't know if it's got much of anything has the juice to it. Like the only thing small capper that's we'll probably get to Faraday a little bit later, but that's looking a little bit spicy from the names that were strong last week at least. Everything else is really starting to pull back in here. So I think you just got to be patient. Obviously, some small cappers are going to emerge, but yeah, Big Bear is looking bearish.
It was upgraded, right? Was it?
Yeah, it was an upgrade.
Yeah.
$7. I think it was a $7 target, and then down 3 points. What can you do?
Yeah,
price doesn't lie.
450 level.
Someone in the chat, by the way, says your hoodie looked like a Kings hoodie, despite all of the Toronto and Raptors on it.
Yeah, I had Raptors on last week, but back on today. Does it say Raptors?
It says Raptors. It says Raptors all over. It's got the Toronto. It's got the. Oh, word. Oh, you never tell me to fix mine. It means it must be perfect all the time. Apparently, you're not allowed to talk when you're fixing the mic. So that if I start fixing my mic, are you going to mute me? I am talking right now, and now I'm fixing the mic.
See, now you're
just like that. No Fabian today, and Ramin decides that she has to.
Where's Fabian?
Just be cold-blooded to us. But let's go back to the desk. Maybe see how the futures are doing. It is
bad, Neil. Bad, very bad. Almost 1 1/3% down here on the ES yesterday or Friday. Excuse me. We closed out at 60.27. We're well below that level. We're well below 6,000 right now. We're actually breaching that 50-point level, already making a new overnight low or morning low, 59.49. Now look, here's the deal. If we bounce back off this 59.50, we'll use it as support. If we keep bleeding and we keep moving down, then we're actually looking at 5,900 as support. No other area really there from a technical sense to keep us up. Now, if we bounce off that 59.50 area, we're looking at the overnight. Well, the overnight high 60.36. We're looking at 6,000 point area as resistance. All right, guys, make sure to get the watch list every day. Adair prepares it, and we all use it on the desk. Helps you organize your day, lets you know what's moving, and we all know a good morning routine requires organization, and that's what this watch list does. Sent to your inbox every single morning. Make sure to get that. All right, guys, the first ticker here, Boeing, obviously in focus with the trouble over the weekend. With South Korea's emergency safety inspection order issued now for all Boeing 737-800 planes after the Jeju air crash. Now, in case you're just wondering what's going on over here, the crash occurred in South Korea's Muwon International Airport, sadly killing 179 of 181 people, being blamed on a bird strike currently. But it should be noted, a separate Jeju Air B 737-800 returned to Gimpo Airport on Monday due to landing gear issues. That was one of the issues experienced by the ill-fated plane, Adara, already gapping down here, Boeing, that is, over 3%.
Yeah, there's certainly a lot of issues here. We know we started this year with that issue with Boeing with regards to that door mid-air on the flight in early January. Now it looks like, unfortunately, we're going to be ending the year with this very fatal crash. It's the most fatal airplane crash, apparently never a good look here. So I guess RIP to everyone affected by that, but Boeing here, that stock could be headed pretty hard to the downside as well. We do have some potential rejection, or at least areas of interest at that 177.
What's your move on this one, Sean? Are you looking at this one?
I have it written down because there is not a whole heck of a lot happening in the markets to the upside today. And this is just another one of those names where down 3%, you're trying to look short. The market's not short because of Boeing, though. So, I was actually thinking, like, apparently this was not a malfunction or anything like that. So, what does it do to the stock? I wrote down short like 177, the 200 period moving average, just because we want to look short today in the market. But I'm not really thinking to push the short rate off the open, to be honest with you. Like, the news is out. We're talking about it. It's all over the place. I don't really want to talk about. There's like a pretty significant loss of life there. 179. Like it's not It's not nothing. But I don't know if Boeing needs to be blamed, and I would just let it settle down until we get a little bit more information on that, because I'm looking at this chart here and like, wow, you know, what a move for Boeing over the last 2 weeks, 3 weeks. So I'd like to actually try to stay long this stock, and I am long this stock, but not okay. Yeah, that's cool. Thanks. Coffee machine was in question. Well, when I was there, it was, and then I was turning it off, turning it on, resetting the power bar and everything. So hopefully, I guess that must have worked, or maybe it was in some kind of a reset cycle, and I was screwing it up. Anyways, at the end of the day, I think that it's going to be a buy down here in and around this 170. I mean, I'd like to see what it does at the 200 period moving average. So for me on that, that's going to be a buy. But for today, I mean, I think we, you know, prefer a short in the market. So if this is going to be a name that does bump into the 200 period moving average, many other names might not get. And we're going to talk about chip names and all this stuff too. But like there's other names there, 125, 200 period moving average on Tesla, on AMD. On Tesla, was it 4.25, I think it was? Yeah. Maybe even higher. Yeah, so there it is. So 4.25-ish as well. So there'll probably be other names that'll run into key levels that I'd be looking short a little bit more because of the market rather than an individual name like a Boeing that, you know, may or may not act on. I mean, like I said, when it comes out that they didn't really have anything to do with it, then it doesn't become a buy, right? So I still like Boeing down here at 170 and change.
I think the answer to that, yeah, like I think probably it'll end, usually it ends up something else. It was a bird string. These things happen, and it's unfortunate as it is. So I still like the 200 period on the stock. It's the reason I recently added, and I don't think, at least for now, barring any kind of a headline that would make this worse, I think obviously you got to look at that 200 period recent support. I do like prior support to resistance on a day like today, like a 178 level. Like there it is on Thursday. There it was breaking away on Christmas Eve. I think that's the level I'd be looking at, 178. You're diddling in the middle in here. There's not really any flat bottom breaks that are imminent. So yeah, just wait for a pop up into 178, and then I'd look for the short at that level. But a stock that I know everybody is interested in and its movements, Tesla, back above $420. So we've already tested that level once. Let's see if we test it again.
Yeah, it's down almost 2.5, Neil, but trying to recover certainly off the bottoms. Here's a headline. They announced that the referral program that benefits North America will be reduced starting January 1st of next year. The program currently rewards existing customers for referring new buyers and offers incentives as well to first-time buyers. Just to give you some examples of what we're talking about here, if you take delivery by tomorrow, so tomorrow's the last day for the program, you'll get 3 months of free supercharging and 3 months of full self-drive, the transferability of FSD as well as allowing you to take it to another car if you do buy another car, and you get 0% APR financing. That all will end Adara as they look to increase margins.
Yes, and clearly the initial introduction of this, I guess, heightened incentives here for referrals, timing of it, certainly they're trying to get those Q4 deliveries up. We're expecting those around January 2nd. That would be this Thursday. This is going to be huge here. Barclays recently opined, they're saying that they're going to beat expectations. They're expecting Tesla to deliver roughly 515,000 vehicles versus the expected 511,000. But they don't really think that these numbers are going to move the stock much. So keep an eye on TSLA. We know that those Q2 deliveries in early July sent the stock skyrocketing. Right.
And the reason these deliveries are so important, guys, that they need to deliver 515,000 cars is because that's how much they need to keep their growth going. So they delivered 1.8 million cars globally in 2023. To meet that, they need to deliver over 515,000 cars. But it should be noted, they've never delivered over 500,000 cars in a quarter. Never happened. So it'll be the first, guys. Tesla down 2.43. What's a look?
There must always be a first, but before we get to that, don't miss out on 25% off all subscriptions, including upgrades to premium at Trade Ideas. Unlock powerful trading tools and insights to take your strategies to the next level. Use code TraderTV25 at checkout and save big. Be sure to visit TradeIdeas.com today and make this holiday season your most profitable yet. That is Trader TV 20. You can scan the QR code right there in front of you or click the link in the description. And I'm sure popping off on a lot of scanners,
It's a good deal.
and for a lot of people's trade ideas, is going to be Tesla today.
Yeah, I think so.
All roads have led to 420 multiple times in the last couple of weeks. So that's where we are right now. Even if we're getting a little bit of a bounce, by the way, even if we get this bounce off of 420, it's hard not to look at the recent highs that have been put in, like the 480 test and then the 465, and you're getting like, it's more shallow each time we bounce off 420. So if that pattern were to continue, I think looking at prior close and then these previous bottoms in here, it's like 428.5, like in that range. That would be where I'd look pop and fade. Like as long as you're underneath that prior low, then I want to be looking to short some pops in Tesla. 420 is already gone, but remember, 420 didn't hold on a dime for 2 of the 3 times it bounced off that level. It actually broke, one time testing almost to 415, the other time testing to 417. So it's more of a price area where I think you can catch an early bounce off of and look for the short back into those prior highs. I would actually almost say 417 has to break, or 415 would be the breakdown level, whereas entering a trade at 420, I don't know that I would. But I am looking trend above or below that direction. If there's an initial pop and fade that holds 420 and puts in higher lows, then I would start looking long. But everything starts for me with the short on Tesla. And I won't bother pulling it up, but I feel like in the new year, we're about to see some interesting price levels on Rivian. But nothing imminent on that one today, but it is getting there again.
I want to thank Nick W. here. Tesla, I have the same. I mean, we sort of talked a little bit about that already with Tesla. I have a very, very similar opinion. Thank you so much. Big fan of the sweatshirt. Thank you. Where I picked it up. My wife got this for me last Christmas, so 2 Christmases ago. So a little bit of an old school one there. It's pretty good. And this is a last year's All-Star hat, which was here in Toronto. I'll be wearing some new stuff very, very soon. Mind giving you a look on BBAI. So. Yeah, look, I mean, we talked about this today a little bit there. It was upgraded. I like the fact that it's 16% short. I like the fact that it's an AI stock. And yeah, I mean, short float's been pretty good. This is what we're looking like on the daily chart. Obviously the issue here is that we run into this year-to-date high of 4 and change, 430, and we make that the new high. But you could see it keeps on, like it has moves up and then it holds, has moves up and holds. So yeah, I think you're actually, Nick, like this 380, I'll get rid of that. Thank you. That was just Benzinga there, just to look at the short float and whatnot. But this Big Bear AI, you might be onto something at that level in and around your 380 mark. So here it comes in right there. That's that sort of breakout right there from 380. Comes back, sort of holds underneath, gaps above, retests it, does break below into 360. So I think if you're going to play 380 on this name, you got to probably give it to 350. So that's 10%. Probably worth it on that. It's not getting upgraded for no reason. Nice steady hold. I think this is very, very similar to all those other AI names where you're going to hit home runs with some of them. And Big Bear might be one of those names. So again, really looks pretty strong up here. If we can just sort of gap a little bit higher. If you're looking at the chart, you have an area here between 2 to 3 held, sort of gapped a little bit higher, came back in, tried to hold those bottoms. So you could come back in and hold this 380 level. I think you nailed that, and I think that's fine. 380 down to 350 for a hold. I would think that would be all good. The thing is, you could get snapped today. That's the only problem. I just don't know. I wonder if there's going to be some sort of a liquidity vacuum on some of these names here today. So maybe you do get an opportunity to buy into that 360, 350-ish area. Just be careful with your stop orders on a day like today. Like I would rather be more confident on this tomorrow if we come in and the Nasdaq is sort of just more chilled out. So just watch out in some names being sold off. But yeah, Michael Noss talked about that gas. So let's go find out the story and then we'll look to see what we can trade.
That gas is at high, Sean. It's taking out the highs right now. I got UNG up on the chart over here, 1852. I believe 1853 is the overnight high. Here's the deal, guys. Ukrainian Prime Minister confirmed that Ukraine's gas transit deal that they have with Russia will end on January 1st of next year and will not be extended according to reports. Ukraine remains open, though, to discussing gas transit for non-Russian supplies to be able to, get over to Western Europe. Ukraine has explored other options, Azerbaijan being one of the other areas where they can transit through. But this signals, Adara, Ukraine's intent to fully sever ties with Russia.
That story is really huge. It's certainly something to watch out for in this space. I'm also seeing apparently that the reason UNG is so high today could potentially be because we're expecting freezing weather in the first half of January. This is according as well to, we're seeing some analysis from TPICAP, which is this British capital company, basically saying that they're seeing very cold weather in the East and Midwest for the next 15 days, and this cold is actually going to be durable. So the expectation being gas prices are going to be going up with that in mind. And if you look at this 15-minute chart, we've been in a bit of an uptrend heading up to this gap up. Anyways, this is certainly something to keep an eye on here, the wider trend on UNG, which Asher mentioned, is super strong pre-market.
You guys trading the Widowmaker today? What's going on?
Oh, not usually. The Widowmaker is a Widowmaker for a reason, and traders have referred to natural gas as that for a while, and I get it. It's a very good move and a gap that got put in here. Before we get to that, I'm going to actually talk about Oxy in a quick little second. There was a super chat, another super chat that I wanted to get to. Thank you, Noah. Appreciate you very much, and thank you for the super chat. We'll hit the like on that one there. Thank you for the lessons. I made more today on your NXU swing play in the pre than you do in 2 weeks teaching. Congratulations there, and more power to you. And he said, thanks for the Thinking in Bets book. I think it's a great book by Annie Duke. Not necessarily a trading book, but certainly one that I think helps with decision making, especially in this realm. I think it's a good way to evaluate decisions. So good look there, and thank you very much for the kind words there. UNG, if you're looking to trade it, it's a pure momentum play. I know it's also a bit of a squeeze play. You can look at the futures contract as well if you wanted to. I think you just try to maybe apply some standard trend trading tactics to it. Like if it's going to go today, make sure it's making higher lows, slap a trend line, look at VWAP, that kind of a thing. But what I was looking at least in the adjacent space, was what looks to me like more of a technical setup on Occidental, where it's got a rounded bottom under prior resistance here at 49. And it looks better on the 15-minute chart. You can see this a little bit easier. There's your rounded bottom, little double top at 49.25, bit of a double top in there today. Like if this can break out that top, I think it has a chance to go. Not much that looks incredibly bullish, but I do like this setup here on Oxy. It does require it breaking out the top, which obviously it hasn't done yet.
Yeah, another name to look at in this space there would be Boyle. So people like to look at this one, 2 times levered ETF here, up a lot. There it is, up 21%. So if you're looking to catch some, a little bit of action there today, watch out for Boyle. I would think that we've seen this, hold on a second, let me just call it up on another chart here because I don't know if it had split or what. Let me just look at this right here. Here's the Boyle chart on the daily from eSignal. So we could probably, whoopsies, we'd have to zoom in here to have a look. But I was just trying to show you guys, like this has been very, very volatile, obviously as we continue to go. But there it is right there. There's 60, oh, you can't see. I'll have to move this over. But there's $60 coming into play once again at the 200 period moving average. So we'll have to look to see what winds up happening here. But I would fade this move. It just seems a little bit too high up. $62, looking like a decent spot there for Boyle. So I would be looking short on this name to come back in. But again, something to trade. I don't know if we talk about how you get caught sometimes trading UNG and some of these names that are so excited. But this one here, I like this. I think this is going to be a spot to look at here for the potential fade in this move up. It seems a little bit too high for me. Nat Gas has been working, though.
Nvidia positioning itself as a leader in robotics by offering the full stack solution, including AI training software and robotic chips. We know that Jensen did launch the new version of the Jetson 4. He was kind of taking it out of the oven and did his little reveal there. I believe last week or the week before that. Essentially, these are small, compact computers that are going to be put on humanoid robots, planning the launch for the first half of 2025. Nvidia believes that robotics could be the tipping point, Adara, driven by advancements, obviously, in generative AI.
So but we had Financial Times reporting the story, but as I was saying to Sharif off camera, I think what makes this even more compelling is Financial Times actually spoke to Deepu Talla, who is the vice president of robotics for Nvidia. So we're getting this from this person themselves. Deepu Talla also saying, basically comparing what we had with ChatGPT being launched in late 2022 and what that did with AI to the moment we're at in robotics right now. So if that is an accurate comparison, this could be huge, and Nvidia is certainly poised to be at the forefront here.
All right, guys, what's the look?
Look, I think obviously we have to sort of separate that. I think that's a positive. It's a positive story that might not move it today because it's the hangover from last Friday. Well, yeah, you can just say from Friday. It doesn't really matter. It's a hangover that you're getting from that big pullback that we saw, and it just feels like a continuation day. And Nvidia is a good example of it. Like you go right into, we're just talking about a rounded bottom on Oxy that needs to break out. Well, it was the same thing going into at the end of last week, or going into last week with Nvidia. It could not break out 141, lower high, and then flush. So my first thought, whenever I see that kind of a rejection and then a consolidation lower, well, play the consolidation lower. That makes 137 quarter, like right 137, 137 quarter shorts underneath there. So if we get a pop, I'm open to short up in that area. If we don't ever get a move that deep to the upside, then there's the prior support, which is just around like 135, 135 half is where it got to. So those are two places I look at short pops. If you're blowing through 135 and there's no weakness in sight at 930, then it's about patience and waiting for it to get into this resistance here at 137. So yeah, I'm looking pop and fade on Nvidia. I don't disagree that robotics is going to be a big deal. Obviously, Elon thinks so as well, and so does Tesla. I just don't know if it's going to move us to the upside today.
All right. Yeah, just real quickly there. Yeah, I was gonna wait. I saw Adam's note there about Boyle. There, the VWAP is at $60. So I mean, we can wait for that. It's a pretty key level on that as well for Boyle. But if you're gonna go short, you got to pay for shorts. Look, I wrote down here as it's going to be. It was the #1 play for me on Friday. It was a huge trade, honestly. That 126 right there, short. Right there on AMD. So we're going to try it again, man. We're going to say back to the well again, 126 top, but if we can get short around 125 to start, I think that it could have the juice, but bail if we're wrong. We had saw that on Friday and we're able to get out of the way. We had a monster trade shorting this pop. We shorted this pop and had the top and had the bottom. And then what I mean by get out of the way is, as you can clearly see, we did have, and we don't have, actually I could probably find it on my feed, go at Trader TV, Sean, some of the trades that we had in here. We just kept, we were shorting in this area. Once it broke out of here, we were able to get out of it. So we did give something back there. And then it came back up to 126 at the end of the day. And we're like, oh, we should maybe short it again. And I can't remember if we did or not, but there's a nice move back off 126 again in market strength. So if we get anywhere near that, of course, that's going to be a short. And when we were writing the sticky note, yep, you guessed it, 8 o'clock-ish, right into here, 125. So what did I write down? 125 to 126 short. So I was willing to short it right there, and we should have done that. But, the market is what it is. I don't want to get too short here in the pre-market, but AMD continues to fall down. So VWAP, 200 period, 125. I'm sitting there right now to try to get some shorts. I guess I got to even go a little bit more ahead of 125 right now. So AMD is the poison that I'm picking here again today, just because of how good it was on Friday. So 125 short on AMD. We'll get some Google thoughts next, because that's also on my mind.
Not two names you usually see together. I'm talking about Google and Walmart. Today, we're going to talk about them in a pair. Why? Because the National Payments Corporation of India, NPCI, will decide on enforcing what they are terming a 30% market cap for the Unified Payments Interface, essentially electronic payments, which is dominated by Walmart's Phone PE, which controls about 47.9% or 8% of the digital transactions. And then Google Play holds about 37.1%. Should be noted that this market cap has been affected since 2020, Adara, but they keep delaying it due to implementation issues. Do they follow through with it now?
We'll have to wait and find out. That 30% market cap, I guess, there is huge, especially because Phone PE, which again backed by Walmart, is actually looking to go public. They're valued at about $12 billion, and their co-founder and CEO has explicitly said that he's not going to take the company public, quote, if there is uncertainty on the regulatory side. So this could be make or break for Phone PE. Again, we're expecting that decision as early as today.
13 billion transactions on these two networks per month, guys.
Yeah, that's not necessarily chump change.
Wow.
925 just hit the imbalances. What little there, I would expect they're going to be just hit. STEM, 1 million, that's not a big deal. That's a penny stock. Yeah, so not really anything that's going to stand out here on the imbalance locator. It's just a bunch of penny stocks. We'll keep an eye. Sometimes 928, you'll see a little bit more on the old locator. Yeah, look, I mean, there aren't many bullish-looking setups for the big cap names, so obviously Google is going to be in that camp, I do think. It's a double bottom that's already broken. Like this flat bottom, which I'm pretty sure in the afternoon show we would have mentioned, it's like 190.5. You've already broken down underneath it. So as long as it's an over-under kind of play, as long as you're underneath that wall of support, it's consolidation shorts on Alphabet. Just one more, because we didn't get really, we mentioned Palantir, but didn't really mention it, and that one's on my list today for the almost the same type of setup. Like Palantir has the same flat bottom break here at 78, gapping underneath. So I'm shorting this one back into 78 here on Palantir. And as a matter of fact, the more it falls, I might have to move the needle a little bit because you've got this lower high at about 77.5 that might play back into. So yeah, as long as we're looking this bearish, you know, I can be convinced that we can hold some bottoms here, but when you have a flat bottom break, as long as it's underneath, got to look for the short.
Yeah, I wrote down 192 for Google. I mean, it's going to be on the sticky note here today. That was the 200 period. Now you're like down to 190, 150 or so. I just thought the loss of steam in some of those quantum names. We talked about Rigetti, we talked about QBTS, D-Wave, and some of those ETFs starting to lose a little bit of steam here today. So I just figure that Google will be one of those names that will lose steam as well with it. So this 192 is right here. It was really nice when we broke it. We retested, it kind of held. We did get down into 190, so it's not like it's an ironclad level or anything like that. I like it to the short. I'm going to play off of that right there, and then it was basically the high 193 or so the other day. So we'll have to wait to see. The close was 193. That was the level that we're looking at. So right there into that level. So 193.23, like, you know, that's good enough for me. So if we get anything in and around 192, it looks like we'll have to put that down a little bit. I'm offering now 192, but that's not going to come into play. So maybe a little bit lower, 191 to start the offer there on Google. Neil already looked at the imbalances, but let's just have a quick look. Yeah, so nothing on there. I'll just leave it there in case you guys want to look, but there it is, gone. All right, so early trade ideas for me, AMD, and we'll go over. See, I type in AMD and it doesn't even show up. AMD, yeah, okay, well, there it is. All right, so again, still looking for the short, but actually, you know, this is what I mean. I don't want to die on this sword, so let's just be careful with AMD. Good opportunity to possibly come back up to the upside as it was just under that 1% mark. Now it's starting to pick up a little bit to the downside, but anyways, looking to get short there. I have offers, 124.50s. I mean, trying to be patient with that one. And then FFIE, Faraday. Oh, okay, the other way. All right, well, I was bidding $2. Now we got to change this a little bit into this, maybe this level here, 220 or so. See if we get a dip buy opportunity. It held 215 last time. Why don't we start the bidding there? I'll still keep my bid at $2 for Faraday, hoping that we don't break. And if we do, watch out for this 190 break or so. Ultimate bottom there, I would say the close on Friday. So 180 for Faraday. So with only a minute left, I think that's a couple good ideas.
Yeah, Faraday, 23% short float on FFIE. So definitely on radar. It's not a heck of a lot in small cap land. As you mentioned, the imbalance is still pretty much nothing. So nothing really popped in there late. It's still just that stem, which is a penny stock. Despite no imbalances, Nvidia with the tiny little pop here, trying to get back to 135. So it's still looking relatively weak. Tesla. All right, Tesla back underneath the 420 level. So while it looked like we were bouncing off 420 and maybe trending towards shorting the pre-market highs and the Friday lows, you're right back underneath that 420 number. I think, like I said, if it loses 417, I think this one's in a little bit of trouble if 3% isn't already trouble for Tesla. So yeah, you've got to be patient. I do feel we're consolidating off some pretty big lows, and we've seen what the Nasdaq can do when it's gapped down this much. So if you're looking to short pops, and we pop from here on this kind of weakness, you want to be patient. Look for that rollover. Wait for your key price level. You don't want to get too far ahead of yourself. But let's get it on over to Adara. Let's ring the bell for the second to last time in the morning in 2024. Let's do it in 3, 2, and 1.
Well, welcome to the jungle, everybody. We've got fun and games.
Casino open.
Yeah, casino's now open, so admission free, but sometimes can be expensive. All right, so right now, here comes Faraday Futures, just pulling back into that 220-ish area. We do not get long. We are at 217. So if we get it, oh, here it comes in. Right, 219. I don't want to change it. Like, there's not much in between 220 and 217. It's just, don't tell me we missed that by 1 penny. But anyways, Faraday right now on my mind to see what we can get. It looks like we may have missed that. And as we sit here and watch it, continue to go to the upside. All right, we'll take a small bid there. Just taking a little bit of shares because I don't want to miss that train for Faraday. We might not miss it at all. It could have that move back in one more time. So we'll go long there on Faraday. We just missed a bigger position at 217. But there it goes. That's that stock in the market trying to...
Well,
I was going to say, because Google's at 190, so I don't know, maybe.
Tesla hit 418.
Oh, did it? Okay.
And then, oh, goodness, it was right back at 421. For a split second, you were at 421. Now you're headed right back under. You need this one to sort of settle itself down, but it is starting to head back to the upside, back above that 420 level. Palantir is charging right up into that 78 level, so you knew it could be a pop. So you're starting to come into some of this resistance, but you've got to see it roll over a little bit here. Don't want to be standing in front of a moving freight train. Oh, wow, GameStop is moving. Did we forget about GameStop? Not at 33. So 33, double top from Friday, GameStop on the move. Probably worth a watch there. As long as this holds 32, I think it looks pretty solid for a continuation play, because this was a squeeze play from last week.
All right, at least if this show doesn't work out, I know I got a job on the midday if Joe lets me. Because there goes Faraday right now. Look at this play right there. We were talking about, you need that 4% to go through on Trade the Pool. I mean, right here, we're now in the money right now, almost 20 cents, almost 10% right now on Faraday alone. We did punch more shit, we did punch something at 222. I'm just going to keep getting some out. There's some more out at 38. Let's just keep going to the high side right now. We're only out of 40% right now of Faraday as it continues to go. Oh boy, here we go. This is already, we can probably anoint this the trade here for me, because when you're up that 10% here in a minute and a half, that's not horrible. I mean, obviously, we always wish we had a little more shares. Wow, this is a oh my God one right now. There it is, a chicken dinner winner. Up to 49s. Let's get there. I got to take something out. Now at 49, up through 250 right now on Faraday Futures, written down there on the sticky note and traded. When will we halt? Nobody knows. Well, I guess there should be some halt bands at some point there. We take a little bit more out there at 50. So there we go. Huge trade alert to start the day on Faraday, like 220 all the way up there to 250. So stock go boom. Let's wait to see where we go now, out of half in and around that 250 area. So far so good there. We'll just continue to watch out for the market, which doesn't seem to be doing a whole heck of a lot.
I don't know, it might be coming back down. So Faraday may be the only future for longs, because the market just did a little bit of a right turn. We go quickly to the Nasdaq. Palantir did make that up and over at $78, so it broke 78, got to 78.10. I got it back on the way in here at 77.80. Stop is at the local high. Let me just adjust that because I really didn't have it in. But the Nasdaq consolidating and heading right back into some of those lows. So the overall market starting to put the foot on the pedal to the downside. Nvidia did not get up to 137 and is about to break the lows. So yeah, we might have missed our shot at that pop and fade on Nvidia. What was it? You said AMD's probably doing the same thing?
No, AMD, we had the exact trade, but we did not get it. Because
Tesla's up, though. Tesla's actually.
Yeah, I was looking at that Tesla. That was a really, really interesting trade. Wow. Faraday, man, we just got 60s on this stock. So that's 20% now in the money there. So good trade. I mean, you guys are looking for some lower cap names, I guess. Faraday Future just absolutely Rip City right now, out of 65% of that stock as we continue to go upside here on FFIE. That was a 58 fill from a long down there at 22. So far, so good. What's up, Dara?
What I do here is take a look at some of these names that have been running off the open. UNG still really strong here. Boyle as well with that volume pop. We know we're expecting a pretty cold January, so some of these areas getting bought up here. Boyle near 63s, UNG near 18s. There's some of these small caps on the move. RVSN getting a pop. This one has run in the past as well with a 17 million share float. That's Rail Vision up about 33%. Boeing, meanwhile, actually dropping off the open, though it's recovering pretty nicely. We've got to about 170 and bounced, currently around 172 halves. So keep an eye on BA, RVSN, UNG, and Boyle this morning. And we do have some economic data coming in about 10 minutes. It's going to be at 9:45 Chicago PMI for December. Back to you.
All right. 252.
So you're saying that nat gas is the hot one, boiling up some profits. Just very quickly, Oxy did not make the break. So obviously you got to break out the top to make a breakout. It is what it is. It's headed back in. PLTR just broke 77s. The market got a fresh low and is holding it, but there's a couple of noticeable names that we're going to get to. But we're holding VWAP, so we get the pop and fade off the 78 level that we like, just right into prior resistance. But as long as we hold on to VWAP, got to be careful. This market is trying to attempt a bounce here. Nvidia, which we didn't really get the short of 137. It never had the strength to get there. It's held the low at 134. So going to require a little bit of patience with this. If we're going to step down to 135, remember 135 have to see this one set up a little bit better. So far, just Palantir. That one just crossed $1 in the money as the market headed through fresh lows. Oh, we have Boeing. That was the other name. Boeing, no pop into 178. Fresh lows for Boeing. It just tagged $170, which is an obvious key level. That's that 200 period moving average on the daily, where Boeing has bounced exactly off that 200 period moving average. So Boeing might have found support at 170. Worth a look if it can retest it. But still looking for shorts because the market is headed to the downside, clearly.
Yeah, good trade there. Obviously with Palantir, we are now 30% in the money on Faraday futures. So my guy Sharif will be pretty proud about this one. Sharif, we're long at $2.20. It's at $2.90 right now. So FFIE making them sing right now. Wow. Okay, let's get some more out. All right, we have a monster trade as well here on Apple. So let's just wait to see how high this one can go. It may come right back in. So we got to watch out here for Apple. It was just in the 60s. Now it's all the way back up. We should have attended this one and said, wow, Faraday, though, is really... All right, well, looks like we might get stopped. Faraday is now approaching $3 and really starting to go HAM right now, like hard, like just straight up. So good trade there. We still got on about 25% of Faraday futures as it's just rip city. Wow, what a stock right there. This stock almost up $1 on a $2 name. So here we go again, man. Monster, okay, breaking through $3. When will it halt? Nobody knows, I guess. I said that before. I'm not sure why it's not halting already as we just continue to move up. Wow. We are now up 60. Like, this is just your chicken dinner. If you have it, it is. It's going to be my chicken dinner winner of the day there, as we're now $1 in the money on a $2 name. So we're almost like up 100% now as we continue to climb higher there on Faraday futures. Oh boy, here we go, man. The halt game is on right now. So there goes the halt. Should be halting right now at 22s, man. Boy, oh boy, are we glad to have been in this one. We get an out there at 22, and now we'll just wait to see what happens on Faraday, as now we are in the money quite a lot, up 82% and change as we wait to see what happens with Apple trying to get through that 252 market, trying to bounce back.
Yeah, the market is blasting. Well, not blasting, but Nasdaq is certainly trying its best, and it's led by Nvidia, which just crossed 136. We said be patient for it. This is what you're waiting for, 137, at least for me. Tesla as well is now screaming 425 as it continues to bleed higher. It looks like this is a big-time hold of that 420 level. So we've got to put some respect on the strength in this market. Obviously was favoring shorts in today. Do we get a reload on Palantir? Not just yet. It's trying to retest that 78 level. But here comes Alphabet. Alphabet's right into those prior lows. This was a simple over-under level. If it curls here, looking for the short entry. But you're absolutely running into these levels. I'd like to see a little bit of a curl. You don't want to stand in front of a moving freight train because the market's still at the low. So you're getting some big cap tech names trying to come back in to the upside. The only one we're in is Palantir, which just did another tag of that 78 level. Now it's starting to look a little bit better. Show me that lower high where we can reload off of. And for all the GameStop fans out there, no break of 33 yet. Still very much in play. But I have my eyeballs on Nvidia. It's now within $1 of the short target, so it's starting to get into that realm. Or if I see a mean revert, if I see a trend break, or just a play into 137, I'm putting the short on NVDA. The Nasdaq's still 1.5% down, despite all of these bounces. It's not as if you're really dragging the whole market up. It's just individual bounces in things like Tesla, Nvidia, some of the other Mag 7 names.
Yeah, I'm going to give AMD a go until 124 and change. We did reshort Apple again. We'll talk about getting stopped out of that. But here goes AMD. I'm just chilling with Faraday, man. Faraday has been a dream there to get that long. Hopefully we'll wait to see when that opens up. We still got on 20% exactly of Faraday. So, all right, we'll talk about AMD, but we got to go to Adara.
Just keep an eye here on Solidian Technology. STI is the ticker for this company. They had a nice move here. It looks like pre-market we had this pop. I'm not seeing any news on STI, but it does have a short float of about 3.57%, a float of 26.7 million shares. Just recently became a $1 ticker. So this was a penny stock up until this pre-market pop. And it has run in the past as well. So Solidian Technology, STI on watch. In 4 minutes, we'll get the Chicago PMI data. Steve?
I wonder if they're expecting better data there, because me and Neil are a little bit puzzled here. The market is still down pretty decently, and I'm like fighting with like a stock like Apple here that doesn't seem to want to go down at all. Okay, well, here it goes now. Okay, Apple. Okay, Apple. Okay, Apple. I just said Apple didn't want to go down, Neil, and now it's 70, 60 cents in the money. All right, so good move downside there for AAPL. We'll spend some money there on that, big time money actually right now. AMD, we do go into that short as well. This might be part of what's helping this market upside right now as well, AMD. So we'll take some more bids on this. Okay, here we go, Neil. Now we are starting to really make dreams happen a little bit here as finally Apple comes back in to that downside. So we shorted Apple there. We shorted AMD. So AMD is the one that's not really going. We just made 20 cents there. 36 is down to 16s where it is right now. But let's see if we get a little bit lower here if the Nasdaq wants to go. Let's not jump in and out of these too quickly. But we did already absorb an L on Apple. So we're going to get back in and then watch it now continue to fall. So we did get stopped out once it broke that 252 area. We talked about that right into there. We did get it back once it was holding VWAP. I should have been a little bit more aggressive on the outs and possibly held to VWAP, but it's a good thing we didn't, because that was 40s. So we almost got stopped out a lot worse on that side than we could have. So far so good here. It's a big day, man. We're $1 in the money on this $3 name. We're now 15 cents and we're hopefully 70 or so plus on Apple. I hope Palantir and all that is starting to fall.
Well, Palantir's looking okay, but Nvidia, it's halfway to that 137. We're in at 136. It just did, well, I'll call it a short-term trend reversion and the first available pullback. But so we're into Nvidia now. VWAP sits all the way at 135, so that's about $1 away. If we get down there, got to be able to take it. But I think what we were getting at was, like, this is the Nasdaq, and we just broke lows and are heading lower. The ES looks exactly the same. So when I look over and I see Nvidia challenging above VWAP, it's obviously red, but let's see us back into VWAP. I'm expecting we should be a little bit weaker than this on NVDA. Tesla was the other name we were looking to get short on. Oh, I hate you. I just went to Tesla with an S at the end. No, Tesla, this is what the pullback that I want to see in NVIDIA, screaming through VWAP and heading back into the lows with the rest of the market. So I have first target on NVIDIA at the 3/4 mark off 136, but I'd like to see it break VWAP, or I have to jump on over to another name. Come on, chart. Let's go. We got about 8 seconds to go before this one decides to reload successfully. And then it was Google was the other one. Well, I just showed you guys the Tesla chart, so I can go over to Alphabet. It went right to Friday's low, to the penny, and tagged lower. So I feel like this is a better shorting opportunity right now than NVIDIA, which is basically holding at flat as the market is making fresh lows. Hopefully at some point it can revert. Palantir is continuing to flush. I tried to catch that curl 77.80, but we didn't grab it. Now you're back at those lows. So this one looking like it's going to be a big time flush city move on Palantir. Google, I do want to pivot, see if we can get this one. We missed it on the move up because we're looking at Nvidia, but that came right into that prior low on a dime, but I wasn't in stock.
Wow, good call there on Palantir. We're also $1 right now on Apple. I mean, wow, that's really starting to go now. All right, so nice little fade here on FFIE. If you did have that, I'm going to take something out here at 90. Oh, we missed the 90. Okay, I'll punch some out now at 84s. So there we go. We're out of another little piece there. We still did have 20% left. We're getting some more out here on Faraday. I'm going to take another 80 fill, and then we can cancel our 90 and now see how high it can go up. But so far, so good there. Numbers with Adara. Let's go Apple.
Chicago PMI coming out here in just seconds. We are expecting here consensus of 42.5, forecast of 43, coming in well below expectations. 36.9 for Chicago PMI. Again, here previous print of 40.2, consensus 42.5, and forecast of 43. So we missed everything here. We also do have pending home sales month over month and year over year, as well as Dallas Fed manufacturing data coming in around 10 a.m. But let's talk here about the Nasdaq, which is certainly dropping a little bit more on this print. Keep an eye on the cues. And again, we do have more data coming through at 10 a.m. Back to you.
Not too much dropping, actually, for some of the stocks I'm looking at, but we do take advantage of that drop. So it was so far so good. AMD, I mean, that's going to be another one. We're going to go 3 for 3 here, and they're all pretty big, man. I mean, FFIE was pretty monstrous. We now only have 15% left of this trade, so that was a pretty good one. Apple, unfortunate to get stopped out there, but right back in, and now Apple goes to P&L number 1 for the show. And then AMD as well. It's going to be a big one, but not as much as we had hoped for. AMD, and I know you're on Nvidia there, but AMD not really moving down. We're still happy with it. It's 40. Look, man, it's 40 cents in the money. 40 cents hard to come across, right? So there it is now, 40, 50 cents in the money now for AMD. But that's what we're dealing with right now as the stocks continue to go lower, and we're being strong and holding the short.
Yeah, the market just continues to bleed. Tesla's now at that 420 level. Google is, it's not a VWAP, but it's well underneath it. I'm trying to get 190s and a half. If we don't get that, we'll have to move into VWAP. But here comes Tesla in that 420. It's an over-under level for me. So if it holds consolidation under, we'll look for a break of the low of the day. I do think this one has a little bit of a flat bottom break potential in it as well. Nvidia was so close to 137. I was right there sitting at 136.90. That's the level that we're waiting for. Unfortunately, it did the curl well before it. We can still get a lower high. We've got all day, and if the market continues to make lows, there's going to be another opportunity to jump back into it. But as I said, on the way to the upside, I don't want to fight it on the way up to try to get it on the way down. And Palantir, we're going to continue to hold on to. It's going to be either Tesla or Google that's going to come in next. And there was a halt in small cap land on INTZ. It just opened back up, fading off of the current high. So INTZ, another one of the gappers there, along with Faraday. Watch out for this. It's a bit of a habitual. It's done this a few times and has come back in rather heavily each time it has. And it's a bit of a day 2 play. So not necessarily one that I would chase, and a high probability future halt candidate on INTZ. Already one up halt, and it just hit the band to the downside and managed to bounce. Actually, that could be pretty bullish for them that it got to the band and bounced. So here comes hopefully Google that we can get into off the 190 and a half. I'm going to put the trail on Palantir if we get to 96 or 76, I should say, which is the current low of the day. And Tesla is still holding above 420. So really, the bounce on 420 has actually been very good on Tesla. But I'm not jumping into the short unless we're failing underneath the 420 level, or we can get it off that 428 up high.
All right. Alrighty then. Faraday, take advantage of it if you got it back to $3. I mean, there is some opportunities to get that out right there if that was something that you were looking at. We did take advantage of Apple, of course, and we were able to get out of that one when it dipped through. And same thing with AMD. Just trying to figure out like what the best plan of action for us is here. Like I still think there's lower. We wrote down actually on the sticky note here today, just to give you guys some context, that we thought that there was going to be a possible short into 2100. 21,000 on the Nasdaq. So we talked about it right here, watching 21,500 support. That didn't hold immediately. And if it fails, watch out for the 21,000 index bounce there on the Nasdaq. So here is the 30-minute chart. So that's why I'm like, what am I going to do here? Because we still have monster position, not monster anymore. But we have a good position, I feel like, on Apple. And do we want to let it go? Well, we are trying to bounce right now of 21.3. So there's a possibility there for something to come through. That might be a little bounce area, like, you know, holding back to the 10th. or so of December, right into this area, 21.3350. There's that 21 O's. I mean, I don't know if we can get down to that level. That's back to the 20th off the open, and then we just blasted the rest of that day. So really, there hasn't been much testing in and around this area, and it looks like it does want to bounce just slightly off. So yeah, man, we've been getting, that's why I've been talking about covering everything. So we are covering it. It doesn't look like it wants to get down too low. A bunch of covers there on Apple, again, to lead the day there. So Apple, a big trade for us here early. And we didn't have it on the note, but we talked about that breaking that 253 area that we really liked. It just did it in the pre. And then again, another big trade that we've been emptying out our clip on, right? I have 10% left of Apple and of AMD. The problem is we had, not a problem, but we had more shares than Apple, which is why we have a little bit more outs. But here comes AMD to come back in. We just took some out in the 80s. So again, a couple wins to go along with no losses today. So that was a good one. And here goes FFIE. Watch out, man. This 260, we talked about 280 being a level. Looks like 260 might be a level as well. I'm going to take one more piece out at 69. There it is. If we can get in, we did. So another piece out right there as we are now holding 5% of Faraday and 10% of the others.
Yeah, we're on the last piece of, oh, wow. I'll update Palantir in a quick little second. Nvidia just took 137.5.
Boom.
So we're like, obviously we're out of it. We didn't get back in because there was no curl at 137. It's now blasting through resistance like it's a hot knife through butter. I think if we've just made a bottom, you can probably thank Nvidia on all of its strength for that factor. There are still a few chip names which are lingering a bit, and I still have eyeballs on Google. I feel like that's the only one. Well, Tesla to a certain extent, but that's trading at a key price level almost right here, right now. So Google's at that prior low. The market wants to try to bounce here. We're playing it for a close underneath this support or underneath this previous support into resistance level. If it closes the bar, look for the short back into that high. The market is making a bit of a bottoming pattern that should be at least respected. I'm going to put that stop in for GameStop now because GameStop is now held VWAP. So 33, the breakout is looming. Looks like we have a decent chance to get it. When we sat down this morning, GameStop was doing nothing. Now all of a sudden it is testing that double top. So it holds VWAP. All it has to do is break out of 30. It's like 33.05. So we'll put that one back in. Didn't think it had much of a catalyst today, but then the last couple of times it's gone, there hasn't been a specific catalyst, which we don't really care about with a GameStop, but it is on the list and on the radar now that it's starting to go. Nvidia can't be stopped. 138 now. Maybe they do like the robotics. It's okay to be wrong. It's not okay to stay wrong. Nvidia now blasting. This is why you try not to hold when it runs your stop. Have your stop at the high, have your stop at the high, and let that one fly, at least for now. Palantir is holding okay, but Nvidia, wow. I don't know what the other chips are doing, but this one is off to the races.
Yeah, we've, tough trade, but good out. I mean, that's what it's all about, right? I mean, you're not going to be tough. Trading's not easy. We've talked about that over and over again, guys. So I feel pretty good about our AMD trade. We have, like I said, less than 10% left of this trade, but it is trying to hold. I'm going to get out if this breaks through 50. So that's going to be my call there for AMD on the break. So if it breaks that 50 area or so, we'll get out. Until then, though, your boy is holding. Hold the line on that one. All right, so we're going to have some more Apple on this little bit of a dip down now if we're able to do that because Apple looks pretty strong. Some of these, it just gapped up 20 cents there. Like the liquidity on these names is much different now. I'm just noticing
it's very low today.
Yeah, with a lot of these traders over the last 2 weeks or whatever taking vacation into the holidays, just be careful where the fills are coming from. And like right now, I'm bidding 23s and it's not even that much size on here. You could go 23 right to 15, right to 10s. So just get your bids out there and hopefully get the fills when they come into you because you never know what price you're going to get. There you go. See, like 23s run right back up to 28 there. So we've taken out on that one because we waited for it. So now on Apple, I just kind of want to wait for 251 now to see if we do get a fill down there. I'm actually at 250.90. Maybe we'll just wait for that on a breakthrough. AMD looks like it wanted to hold. I'm no longer too concerned with Faraday futures. So if you guys, I'll take out. Okay, yes, sir. Yes, sir. All right, that was a good fill there. Sorry, on AMD, we just get a 123 fill as that came right back in. So again, a pretty good day, man. Pretty good day here for sure in the markets, right? Going to be dependent on the stock. I think you just traded Nvidia. Nvidia and Palantir.
It's only
right?
two.
So
It's
you'll be 1 and 1.
Palantir's good. Nvidia was bad and still looking pretty strong as far as I can see. Tesla hasn't really set up yet. We just keep bouncing off 420. It's lower highs. It still looks like the market's weak. We're almost at 2% down on the Nasdaq. So it looks like Tesla might make a break underneath 420 now. It's about 419.60 or so. There is, by the way, Bitcoin's at 92. So like that, remember the flat bottom break on Bitcoin? Well, it's kind of happening as we speak. I don't want to pay for anything on TradingView, but we're about to break that low here on BTC. So you're looking very bearish. Like I'm not getting away from looking at shorts. So anything that's looking too strong, I want to back off of it. And anything still setting up for the shorts that we like a Tesla, if it can get under the 420 level, I still want to give it that chance. I did go on over when I saw that in crypto, see what's happening in Mara. It's already bleeding. So I don't necessarily want to chase that move. We'll just wait for Tesla to set up. Look for maybe VWAP reloads on Palantir. And as I mentioned, GameStop, a potential breakout as some of the small cappers, well, this particular one is trying to make a sort of random breakout through the top. So it's still holding higher lows. No breakout just yet on GME. But yeah, what an absolutely, it's a crazy turn by Nvidia, but it's not like it's dragging the rest of the market with it yet. Just be a little bit cautious here. I don't think you want to get trapped shorting any bottoms, especially with the liquidity like this. Like I keep waiting for Tesla to break 420. It just keeps bouncing off of this level. If I was bullish, you'd probably already be long off 420. But I'm not.
Okay. Okay. So like I said, man, we'll celebrate when AMD dips down into that 123 because we get the fill. So we'll just be careful. I'm going to put another one there now, maybe 123.20. It's making me nervous watching that, or hearing anyways, Neil talk about the Nvidia there starting to rip up. So that's now positive. And we said in ever weakness, go after the king and just buy the best names. And you can see Nvidia upside and AMD downside. So that makes sense to me for now. But as a day trade, it's not, you know, like if the sector wants to go, what is SMH doing right now? Maybe that's something that we can have a quick look at here just to see which side of the game it's on. So it's also red. So yeah, it must be names like that Broadcom that's trying to come back in a little bit maybe. I know Intel off that 20 is starting to head a little bit down. Yeah, so Broadcom not recovering at all. That's probably
Tesla's trying to break.
That's probably a great short. Okay, so Tesla's down to that 420 marker.
Yeah, it's broken 420 and it just got through. Okay, it's not the fresh low, but it's like the lower.
Let's see.
We'll call it like the lower high that it put in off this 420 level.
Apple.
So it just finally closed or broke down underneath 420. We like the over under there, and it never really set up unless you had the first trade. Let me just get a bid into the low of the day here at 418. Just adjust it a little bit there. If we can hold underneath 420, it's a simple over under. So when I'm playing down here, I said don't get trapped shorts at the bottom. If we immediately retake this 420 level, I do want to jump out of Dodge. Next stop will be 418. If we get a break of 418, 417, and 415 were the two wick bottoms from the last, I guess it was last week or a couple weeks ago. So there's 415 in there, and you had 417. Those were the two big tests of this 420 level on Tesla. We're short at 19.5. Looks like we're headed back to the downside. It doesn't necessarily feel like it if you happen to have Nvidia up, but the Nasdaq crossing 1.8 to the downside, the ES 1.6% to the downside, and a few things breaking some lows. So get it to the low of the day there on Tesla, but remember, this is held down here at 420 while bouncing off those teams before. It would not be the first time. I'm holding on to 2/3 of this, looking for a bigger move. So if we break back above 420, I'm covering and then waiting for VWAP to re-engage. Market's still looking like it wants to bleed in here. And you know what? Shout out to buy and sell in the chat. Just loaded up on Adobe. I think this is a great price. That was a stock. I haven't checked to see where it is this morning, but I know last week I liked the prices that it was at. I'm going to imagine it's probably broken the support that I was looking at though.
Yeah, I mean, I would say
Probably.
if it's like the rest today, yeah, you'll probably get some downside love there for Adobe. Good trade on Tesla. We are obviously, licking our chops here as well on these shorts. I mean, they've just been so good today. Apple continues to make that move down. Obviously, that's $1 now as well, and we've just been sitting in it, so it's just like one of those things. And then AMD trying to go southbound as well as the market's giving it up. So, I mean, it is straight up there to the downside right now. And we actually, that's exactly what we had written on here, feeling short. We talked about it when it was down 1%. We talked about it when it was down 1.3%. I mentioned when it was down 1.5%. But if you're looking for anywhere, we have the watch list. Neil posts something up as well. And then right there, watching shorts, like all of these names there, the only long that we have is the biggest trade of the day, and that is Faraday Futures, up over 100% at one point, close to 100% on that trade at one point. Well, I think it was only like 75 or 80%. But we got another piece out. It did rip into okay, it's still here. So does rip back into the 80s now. We're getting like lighter and lighter, man. We have 5% now on Faraday. But here we go. Let's wait to see what winds up happening. Now Apple trying to get back into 251, maybe a little bit lower now. AMD starting to go. AMD, Neil, starting to go right now to the downside. Hopefully Tesla's going. We have AMD right now, 60s. I'm going to put a bid at 75, capture some of that. My next bid is at 60 right now. But there it goes. Yes, sir. Big time alert right now at the highest spot we've been at all day as these shorts continue to pay. As we've told you, we've changed our style, man. We're just trading the names that we like. We're trying to hold on to them. We're trying to play the momentum. We're reading the futures. And so far, so good. All right, Adara.
Following a much lower than expected Chicago PMI print at 9:45 here at 10 a.m., we got a higher than expected print for both the pending home sales month for month and year over year for the month of November. 2.2% here for the month over month number. That is above a downwardly revised print of 1.8% and above the consensus of 0.7%, forecast of 0.9%. Pending home sales year over year also higher than expected, 6.9% versus the forecast of 5.8% and the previous print of 5.4%. So to recap that data, higher than expected month over month and year over year pending home sales, but a lower than expected Chicago PMI print. As we have the Qs continuing to bleed here, down about 2%. Apparently the S&P 500 is set for a pretty significant record here. We'll have 2 down days in the last 5 days of trading, which is a record we haven't seen in quite some time. So be very aware here of this relative weakness, I guess, in the market compared to previous years. Now, in terms of other stocks here, we have these small caps still very much moving to the upside. RVSN, this one's on watch upwards as well. HOLO has been on watch. But in terms of larger stocks, we do have Boeing here of note. Basically, this one initially pushing much lower, actually bouncing off that 170 level off the open. 179 of 181 passengers, unfortunately, died in this Boeing crash in a South Korean airline, currently being investigated right now. Then we have Nvidia, NVDA here, basically flat right now, pushing down a little bit with the market, but still in generally an uptrend here, with Financial Times reporting that the company is looking to launch its Jetson Thor computers here for humanoid robots. So keep an eye on NVDA. Back to you.
I love that name, by the way. The Jetson Thor.
Yeah, they've got some good ones going on over
well,
there.
I'm a big fan. I love the Jets. I love the Jetsons.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's one of those. Whatever. There's Team Jetsons and there's Team Flintstones, and I was always Team Jetsons. It was a similar premise of the show. Just very quickly in here, Tesla it retests the 420. It's going to be hard. Can I put up I'm going to put up a 1 minute chart. I use 3 minute charts, but you can't, even a 1 minute chart, you can't see this very well. It retook 420 for about a second or two, and then I was able to get back in on the way back through at 419.79. So we got out, and then it came right back through that 420 level, and we got back in. So 417 has now held, and it's now held a couple of times. And remember, 417 was that higher low the first time we tested it. It's really not gone more than that $3. I feel like if it doesn't break it on the next move down, we could have found a bit of a temporary bottom here on Tesla. The other thing worth watching is, as the market continues to make lows, Nvidia is actually holding VWAP. So it's an upward trend. It's holding VWAP. We get a couple of tight stop ins and outs. Didn't really ever fight it, but this is higher lows and looking strong on Nvidia. So this market has made a bottom. Nvidia is the one. It looks like the one, I should say, to said long side. And while this was all happening, Palantir did retest the low. I covered it when it got to 76.5. It just held the pre-market lows one more time here on Palantir. So it's still weak. I'll look for the next available pop into this lower high at 77 1/3. If it holds this, I think the short's still valid, but if it starts climbing above VWAP, maybe it's already made a bottom. So let's let it get back into this lower high, see if it ends up being a good reload there on Palantir. But Nvidia is starting to look more like it could be a long, even with the market continuously making lows. Looks like a pretty strong stock to me. It's a red to green story. It's higher lows. It's holding VWAP. Pretty much everything you'd look for in a long trade.
Yeah, I think the right thing to do right now is to, exactly, like look for stocks that are relatively strong or weak, and then try to trade accordingly off of some of those levels, right? And so that's what I'm trying to do right now, is try to think about, as Neil talks there about Nvidia, I'm thinking about okay, have we potentially, I'm going to get some out right now, have we potentially seen that bottom? Because we had talked about 21,000. It seems to be holding this 21.3 level that we also looked at as well. So there are some possibilities here for bounces back in the market. And then I'm just trying to look at different things, like what would be the barometer. These are all holding. There's a lot of levels now in many names that are starting to hold. And yeah, maybe that Boeing would be somewhere to look, as I think I just heard that's what you mentioned. Right there on BA. So another level to possibly look out for Boeing. But yeah, Apple's holding that 251. Right? AMD now holding that 123. Faraday not doing much. So yeah, we're just going to sit here and try to figure this all out. That Boyle, I actually paid for some shorts there, but it's just been straight up right now as UNG now finally starting to turn around off of 64. So that could be something that we look to consider now for Boyle. Maybe you're still waiting for a VWAP break. We wouldn't mind that breaking back through 62, for VWAP trade. 63, of course, is the 50-period moving average. You could start to maybe leg into that. I'm going to take something out on Apple if we can get a 50 print, and then maybe even something in the 30s to the downside now, because you're starting to make that move back up. I mean, my stop's going to have to be 252 VWAP break, and I do not want to average in. We've seen these names really take off when you're wrong, and then kind of not when you're wrong, but give you everything back to the upside. So the longs, there's been many days where the longs have also cashed in this market. So let's not be too stubborn thinking that, hey, the market's only one way. It can turn on us in a dime. So we'll start to take some more out here. As we said, we're pretty light on all of these. We have less than 5%. We have 3% left of AMD. And then on Apple, we have minuscule left, under 5% on Apple as well. So, just kind of good doing our own little thing here as we go. We wound up going to Wonderland, but it was plus 10.
So it was really warm.
Great.
It wasn't a winter wonderland at all.
No, which was good because my hands were still freezing. I got to get better quality gloves. I should have asked. I was thinking about mittens. I need to get those sick sheepskin.
You know what? I got a pair of. I got two pairs. I got touchscreen gloves because I want them for when I'm commuting, and then I got a pair of the electronic warmable glove.
I'm down. If they work, I'm down.
You can heat them up. They're ridiculously good. I'll let
my
you
hands
check
are
them
cold
out.
now.
I didn't bring them today because it's actually not that cold today. But Boeing, I might have missed a shot at Boeing here. Of the names that we didn't look at that were on the watch list, that were on my list to trade, Boeing was one of them. It never went to 178, but it did set this up. If you're looking short, higher lows into VWAP, broke the trend. I'm like, okay, it's going to break trend. Let's short 173.5 and give it to here, 173.80. But you can already see it start to break down. Might not be the right time to take the shot at Boeing. I'm not chasing it. We'll just have to hold on and see if it gives another chance here at VWAP. Obviously, unfortunate events there. And I still own Boeing in the long term, and I hope things will be just fine for them, but obviously not looking very good. Down 3% is Tesla. It's still trying to break down, but remember, we're short this at the 420 level into 417. The top end of the range is $7. The bottom end of this range is $3. So there is that still, hey, we could be trapped at the bottom here. So we've scalped again into the low of the day. I'm looking for a break and then take us to 415, which is the local bottom on the 15-minute. So that's going to be the target here on Tesla. If we get it, great. But this market is starting to look a little bit better in terms of strength. So Tesla, while being weak, I look over at Google. I was looking Google short at this level. On a 15-minute chart since the open, it's all green candles on Alphabet.
Really?
Yeah, and look, it's still down, but look at it. It keeps on holding this area, but it's doing so on some pretty decent strength in Google. So I'd like to see this maybe break the trend and then head to the downside. That would be a much better setup for me. On Alphabet and Bogart. Yeah. Oh, that's a good one. I almost didn't get that for a second. This INTZ, which is the other, Faraday was, I'd say Faraday was cleaner because it didn't have to halt for you to get the gain. Like this halted halfway and then still going higher. It is holding above VWAP, always a good sign for these small cap names. Kind of dancing around the prior halt price. Sometimes halt prices matter. In this case, this halt price is not really making any difference. I think you got to look at VWAP, which is holding maybe 30, 40 cents above VWAP on INTZ. As we always say, no one ever went broke taking profit, and this stock has had a history of bouncing for a day or two and then giving up the entirety of the gains, up 190% on, I don't even know the name of this company. Intrusion Inc. is the name of the company, and I had to look it up.
Intrusion Inc. Okay. All right, so we could reload this Apple, honestly. We've talked about missing it. We're actually still holding on to this AMD. We did get a little bit there of AMD at 123 flat. I mean, now it's a lot lower than that, so that's all good. Just a spot. I'm going to. So we're in the money 30 cents. I'm going to get out of another piece here, like a couple percentage points of what we have left there at 75s. As this pulls back into Apple, into the 50-period moving average, we still are bidding our 51s that we were bidding initially on that, and then back into the 30s if we can get something. Actually, I'll cancel that. See if we get a little bit of a fade. But that's close to where we're going to stop out now. That's given us that top. So that's again, we can give it up to these wicks, which might be okay. Like I said, we have way less than 10% left of this stock. So I think we're doing pretty good with managing our risk here today. So good outs there on Apple all the way through. And now let's just let it fade back out. We'll use 252 and a quarter or so to get out if that's what we need. So, okay, what's up, Adara?
Now here on Mullen, M-U-L-N. This is one of those smaller cap EV names that has been on the move. And you know these EVs are going to be in watch here ahead of, well, all these vehicle names ahead of deliveries for Q4, which are expected in early January. Last week, they had a bit of a catalyst here announcing that this Westland Floral has purchased some of Mullen's Class 3 EV trucks for one of their landscaping fleets. But the key thing with Mullen to note is their float. They have a 387,000 share float, and 26.7% of that is going to be short float. Market cap here just under $10 million. So small float, significant short float, and small market cap for MULN. Back to you.
If that fails a dollar break, it's probably a decent short setup on Mullen. We know how many times that stock has split in the past, and that is the destruction. Thankfully, it's not a destruction of wealth, because I would think most people don't invest in a stock like that. You'd probably just take gambles on it. So now that you've tested 415 on Tesla, just very quickly, it's got these lower highs that it's put in. This is the initial bounce off 420. This is the lower high, head and shoulders. It's now a trend trade. So if it closes above the trend line, I'd look to get out. That'll take it through 417.5. Palantir might be turning. On a 15-minute, it probably looks a little bit better. But see the bottom? Double bottom here on the from the daily. And it has a chance to revert its trend. Like, it could break the trend line to get above VWAP here on PLTR. So that's kind of what it looks like here from those highs. The lower high gets put in. Those opening candles with those crazy wicks at 9:30, I don't like those for trends. I typically like, okay, well, what's the next level that it makes? I'm a big fan of, hey, well, when there's real volume starting to come in and not those crazy wicks, where does it settle down? Well, Palantir looks like it's breaking the trend and trying to close a little bit higher. So I've already got the trail on Tesla. Nvidia, high of day, and could be breaking out. It's a rocket. Nvidia is a rocket right now. If you're looking for the next level, it's like $141 was resistance last week. So if this is a bottom, got to be able to join Nvidia somewhere. This one might be turning into a long. I mean, it already turned into a long. Not might be, it already is. Got to find maybe a chip name that's lagging it a bit. You'd said Intel was holding. No, never mind.
No, Intel fell through 20.
Okay, I thought you had said it was holding 20. No, Intel's bleeding. Low.
What is it at now?
19.8.
Oh, 1980. Okay.
Where's the bottom? Oh no, like $1 away. Yeah, this is short.
Yeah, you got to watch out. I mean, some of these trades, I like the idea of looking over to find, like, you know, where is the weakness in this market right now. If we're going to look at sort of this hot list right now that's been pumping out here through eSignal, I can't really make this any bigger, but I think they can probably read it. Here's this STEM, ACHR. These are all trade rates. So AMD load. So it's like a lot of like lesser known names here, smaller cap names that are running 22%, 21% on L. Thanks, Ramin. On LODE there, VTI coming through, and maybe, again, another name that's not going to mean anything. Apple, XOM down 1%, KHC down as well. Wolf right there, down 7%. There's our UNG with a quick look. There's the Broadcom we were mentioning, down 3%, Lee Auto. So again, this is just by trade rate. So you can go down here and select various through eSignal, yearly high, yearly lows, point losers, gainers, quarterly, volume rate. So stocks going through a lot of volume right now, including GTI, Faraday. So this is another good scanner. QS right now doing some work there as well. So these are some different names that I try to look at, and what we're doing is trade rate for me, the names that are right now pumping through. AMD looks like it's trying to get going back up to the upside, as that's another name that we're short, and now it's starting to go up. So fine. Again, less than 5%, now even less than that. We just got another out at 123 trying to break higher, but where is the out on AMD for you guys if you're still in this? I was looking at the 200 period moving average, but depends on, it's hard for me to say like where your outs would be because it's going to be share specific on what you have, but you are right back into a level right now that I would think would be worth getting out of, and that's like this 124 break. So the 200 period is 124.20. So for me, I'm thinking like in and around there is probably a decent out, but if you want to cut your losses in and around 124, so be it. So right now we have a very, very small piece. It's not dinging anything here net-wise. We did take another piece out on Apple again, as it just dropped into the 70s. So you see what we're doing, man? It's like as the market turns, we're taking advantage and getting out on these dips. So you can reload it if you want, but the risk is now completely out of my portfolio. We just have FFIE, which we have 3% left on this one. We have 4% left on AMD, and we have under those percentage points left on Apple. So yeah, so far so good, but yeah, a little bit of a turn in the market. We should probably look for something relatively strong, and you mentioned Google, so that could be
Google's
something.
trying to go
about Amazon.
Nvidia's really gone. Nvidia's now up 1.2%, but as you just mentioned, that's a pretty solid bottoming tail candle here in the Nasdaq, at least for now. You have not really broken trend, but you've certainly just shown some strength down there at we broke down 1.8, 1.9%. I did just get out of Tesla once it broke the trend and closed this. We got out looking for a bounce to maybe take us into VWAP, but it's still looking weak on Tesla. So I still favor the short. I don't want to get away from that notion on Tesla yet, but I had to follow the rule. If it broke trend, I would get out. Now you're starting to head back into the low. So that one, I think, still valid for some shorts on pops. Palantir continues to hold. It's charging into VWAP in here. So like, again, just more patience with Palantir. This is the only one that I shorted at a top, as opposed to getting some of those lower highs that you would have seen on Tesla. Chill vibes saying maybe look at Meta for some strength. Okay, what else? I mean, obviously Nvidia was pointing out was strong. It's at VWAP, down 1.7% still. Not a lot of range here on Meta. Yeah, holding into the bottom. Ooh, I do like it on the daily chart, chill vibes. Meta has again bounced off the 50 period on the daily, so that's a good bouncing spot here. You like the buyers to be down at that 50 period on these big stocks. Yeah, if it can close this 15-minute bar and then maybe look for a local breakout off of Friday's lows, that doesn't look terribly bad. But as the market tries to roll back over, I don't want to give up on shorts yet. Still looking at Boeing, Palantir, and Tesla. So Boeing to get in for the first time, Palantir to start looking like it's weak off of VWAP and get back into that one, and Tesla if it can get to 420. But Boeing I think Boeing's going to flat bottom break this 72. It already broke the upward trend. If it takes this 172, which it hasn't yet, I want to get into this short for the first time, down 4.5% here on Boeing. Not really cheering for it to go down in the long term, but at least today.
Yeah, good call there. We'll go a little bit of diamond hands because there it is. All right, so new stop indicated now. I'm going to get out if it breaks this level because we just took profits, 123.65. Good move down there. We just made 50 cents as soon as As Sharif says, quick as you like, right there on AMD. Where is that, Professor? Get that guy over here. But there it goes. Nice move to the downside right now on AMD. So that was a great hold. We'll try to average a little bit more into it now that we have this high, if we're able to get something on a pop. So that's going to be a good little level for us if that does come in. And then back into, of course, we haven't hit this today. We've had lots. I mean, we both had dollar winners. But there it goes again right now. Apple, look at this move right back in, man. And this is what we talk about. We said that this has been the difference in my trading as of late, and it is becoming more confident in the positions that we have, trading them, putting on more shares, letting the trades work out for you. Can it blow up in your face, if the trade goes against you? Of course it can, but so far so good. And you got to trust in what you're doing and the work that you've put in and things like that. So for right now, for Apple, yes, sir, it is bleeding right back down into those levels. So just look at this. This is what we talk about conviction, right? Short, short, short. Into it, but not enough convicted to get more here, which is, that's the next stage of the evolution for myself for trading, is to, average. We average in all the time. I mean, that's one of our best things, is what we do. But later on into the trade, instead of worrying like, oh my God, this might now go against us, maybe we still sit there and try to trust the same levels. But again, we did have the negative bias in the futures, which is why so far here today, obviously, as we talk about this, Apple and AMD, the only two trades I've had on all day, along with Faraday futures. So yeah, man, we are trying to keep it spicy up in here. Which Canadian stocks are good to buy for the next little while? So I think CNR, which is Canadian National Railway, I think has a good opportunity to do some stuff there with a nice little yield as well, and a nice downside move. As we talk about figuring out what's going to happen with the tariffs and everything like that, these guys, Canadian National Rail is huge. Like there's also, Pacific. I just like the rails. I think that they've just been beat up so much that you get a lot of value in some of these names. I look for CNR to be a play there. And you can, there's lots of different names. I would think that Bitcoin also, you can buy some Canadian. If you had some ETFs there in Canada as well, but I know that's not what you're necessarily asking for. And then my big one, Fortis, not my big one, but one that has been pretty good, Fortis, again, a energy play. That's been good there, out east name as well, Fortis, with a nice yield. But again, I'm still very, very pro-growth names, and these are not really them. So
Canada doesn't have a lot of those, really.
No, I mean, that's why, I was just going to lead to a name that many of you maybe already... I didn't talk about Shopify because it's such an American name now. Like, there's a lot of indexes. It's a popular one.
Still Canadian, baby.
Still Canadian, but yeah, a lot of you will know Shopify.
Sure.
So Shopify, I would say another name there. If you're looking to dispose of some Canadian dollars, you can go into some Shopify. But thank you there for the question as well.
Ooh, I know we have to get over, it's for the small cap recap, but we had a couple of super chats. Okay. Oh no, I lost one of them. So I see you, Kyle Burdett, but we had one from Adam as well. Shout out to you, Adam DeLuz. Appreciate the super chat. Learn the markets, make a plan, stick to your plan. Don't be a Leroy Jenkins, right? It's pretty simple as that. And Kyle Burdett, I'm getting nothing for Christmas because I ain't been nothing but quadunking. And I believe it's more like a quadunk. There's a Q in there somewhere, I think is how we spell that one.
It's like a little bit of a huh.
Yeah, that's the sound. Quadunk. Yeah, and you can look it up on Urban Dictionary because that is an actual term for the market coming down.
For sure.
So this is now weird because the market's coming back in. Nvidia's pulling back in. Here's Tesla right back at that 420. Suddenly it's looking a little bit stronger than the rest. I still have the order to break down on Boeing, and Palantir is the other one. There we go. Palantir now starting to lose VWAP. This is what we're trying to see. Hold the lower high, and then hold underneath VWAP, which is also happening here on PLTR. So let's get on over to the screen. Time for some reloads on some shorts, and also time for the small cap recap, I believe. It's true. Yeah.
Potentially.
This is, in fact, the small cap recap. IWM, you're down about 2%. Look at that break through that 220 level. This was support back on Friday. Basically, crashed below it right off the open. So Russell 2000 just as weak here as the rest of the market. That we know it's been a little bit weaker as of late, especially since that FOMC meeting on December 18th. A lot of these small caps, though, still running. I'm not going to include all of them here in this list. There have been a lot. STEC, HOLO, STI, just to name a few. RVSN. We're going to stick here with these names here. NXU, actually a penny stock, around 80 cents, I believe. up over 200%. So keep an eye on NXU with about 11 million share float. Next up here with a just around 6 million share float, we have WATT. This one up about 300%. Be aware it has halted a couple times, and it does have a short float of just under 10%. And last but not least, also with a notable short float is Mullen. This is an automotive name. It is pretty diluted here, pretty small float as a result because we've had some reverse splits. Around a 380,000 share float, so very small float. Market cap here, we're seeing around $5 million, and the short float is about 27%. So MULN, proceed with caution, but up about 13% right now. Back to you guys.
I feel like Mullen should always come with some kind of a disclaimer for ever trading it or whatever. Like, you know the story when you're getting into it, that small caps can dilute, and Mullen is, I would say, like the prime candidate to do so pretty much every single time it has an update. Oh, you've got it. Come on, Palantir. You could have checked up for another split second. We were just sort of saying it was holding underneath VWAP. I'm not going to chase too much. I think we'll get another chance to get back into this one as it continues to look weak. Boeing, oddly enough, now starting to look a little bit stronger, but you're getting a VWAP retracement. If it closed under VWAP, then I won't wait for a 172 break, and I'll look for some kind of a setup underneath VWAP. Google was a name that we haven't actually traded because it started looking strong. Well, now you're getting, there's the failed break of our prior high. This looks a little bit better for a short. Now you just got to be patient. Like, there's your resistance level. You could have scalped it, but it was looking pretty strong going into that level. Now all of a sudden you've got the failed break of this resistance and the lower high at the same resistance. Looks to me like you can now, I'm going to short into this 190.60. So first thing I do is get my stop order in. And if we pop above VWAP, I'll consider it money fills above VWAP on Google. Tesla, I'm not rushing into it. Remember, Tesla is, while it is down 3% and it has worked off of 420, I have to remember the higher time frame look on Tesla. And that is, each time it has broken 420, it's made a morning bottom in the teens. So the fact that it did bottom out here at 415 and that's where we're able to grab out, well, I can't hate on that. If that's the move and it gets back above 420, suddenly you have what was a good short into the same setup that has ended up with this stock getting into the 430s almost every single time. So I do want to see it calm down a little bit here. As I said, we just got into Google. We're looking to get back into some Palantir. And I see RHY Re, is that your name in the chat? Saying Intel. I don't know what to tell you. Come on, Intel, show some life. To each their own, but there's Intel if you're looking for a chip name long, and there's Nvidia if you're looking for a chip name long. Now, granted, that is a hefty pullback on Nvidia, but if it were to bounce here, you're talking about bouncing off of VWAP. You're trying to go again from red to green. I think that's where I'd be at least attempting to look for a long trade on Nvidia, not trying to catch bottoms on Intel. It's just been too ugly. And the rest of the chip names out there, none of them look that great. Broadcom's kind of languishing. This even looks, like I'd look at Broadcom for a long more than I would look even at Intel. Like, look at it, it's kind of higher lows, 235. It could easily break that one out. So it's hard to look at Intel and see that as the opportunity. So I'm into Google. It's not about VWAP. It's about this 190.60 area, which is Friday's low. So we're into it for the first time here today. Nvidia might bust through VWAP and not even try bouncing. Yeah, we're not gonna actually hold VWAP on Nvidia, it doesn't look like. But let me get something out here in front of 190 on Alphabet for the first time.
I mean, look at what we're even doing right now, as Neil mentions. Apple right now with the face slapper to the downside right there, as it's just collapsing back in right now. So again, just looking to stay and get short, and so it's been really, really good. All right, here, Rigetti. Yeah, I mean, I could talk about, I see someone talking about Micron there. I almost put Micron on the shit list today, but it did not make it there. It probably could have, for sure, breaking that 87 marker. We had this was my second best trade on Friday, and it was just whoop to the downside there, and we shorted 89.50s. And I was looking at it today, and it was just, it's like we were nowhere near here. I mean, we could have, I could have wrote down 88, something like that. That would have been more reasonable as we came into here. But this name never really got back to any shortable areas. You could have hit VWAP again, but there was really no pushback. That was in the first 2 or 3 minutes. And of course, we were already rocking with Faraday, and that Apple, we just covered some more down there. That was really, I was not expecting that. We actually went and topped up and got a coffee. And when we went down there, we went to go get one. We've got AMD and Apple on some great levels, and I'll talk about those in a minute. But Micron back to VWAP would be a trade, not back to the 50 period. I think the market wants to travel a little bit if it's going to go. I still think the market's short. I'm just saying, like, we've traveled already to the 50 period a couple times and hit it and then quit it. And right now, if it goes one more time, I don't know, but that's a pretty dramatic. I remember when the market was down, I was like, 1%, 1.5%, 2%. The market could be down that 2%. I will be putting money to work probably at lunch, or maybe we'll see what happens as the market makes moves down even lower. But I do want to buy, Canadian. Oh, here was one, VFN, I think, on Canada. We might not have it. VFV? Yeah, there it is. Yeah, this is what Vanguard S&P 500 index. So it does.
I was wondering where you're getting at with them. Like,
yeah, just there's lots in Toronto. I'm not. You can. This is just like the SPY. Yeah. The only reason I bring it up is because we did have that question, and I apologize who it was from. There, we are located, of course. We often don't talk about Canadian equities because in the day trade realm, like Canadian traders will trade mainly U.S. names, right?
There aren't very many good day trading stocks in Canada in a traditional sense.
So the other thing I was going to show you too, and that of course is true, is a stock like AAPL. But look at this; it does have a CDR. So this is Apple in Canadian funds. If you come over to the screen here, it trades exactly the same as Apple, except for it is, to do the math, whatever the price is there, 7, 8 to 1 or something like that on the price. But at the end of the day, it will mimic, right? So there's Apple.cc, and then you have Apple, obviously, in the main market there down the same percentage, right? So that would be something else. You can always look up CDRs. So just like we have American depository receipts, just like you could trade Alibaba and things like that over here in the United States when its primary listing is over there in Hong Kong, you have the same abilities to trade a Meta, for example, .cc, which is the Canadian CDR on our system. So this will trade exactly like Meta, and then there's actually all of them. There's Microsoft. I'm not even sure if there is an Uber. So I think this is where I'm not long Uber in this because I don't spend Uber's only a $60 name, so I tend to do that there. But like if I was going to buy Meta instead of paying $600 US or whatever it is today US, I'll just go over pay 32 Canadian, and then we don't get rinsed on the exchange because the exchange right now is hella crappy. It's 144, 145.
And it's not getting better.
When I put US money into a broker, then most of the time you'll pay some kind of spread. Hopefully it's a little less and there's some more friendly places out there than others, but you don't lose anything if you play the CDRs, but do your own research. Again, we are not affiliated with, I believe it's CIBC that has launched these over there. So, yeah, exactly.
That's my bank.
That's another bank, yeah. What's going on over there, Dara?
We have some crypto going on over here for our crypto update segment. This is an interesting graphic here from Bloomberg. This is basically the amount of Bitcoin purchased here by MSTR. I'm going to see if I can zoom this out a bit. There we go. Every single week starting from November 11th, and then with our most recent purchase here in December 30th. So this number actually starts escalating here as of November 11th. This is going to be after the FOMC meeting in November, reaching a height here of just under 60,000 Bitcoin purchased on November 25th. Then we start de-escalating here. We've had purchases every week, but they've gotten lower. We talked about this earlier here, Sharif and I, in the big desk this morning. December 30th here, during that filing, the company announced it acquired just over 2,100 Bitcoin, valued at $209 million in cash. So this is interesting to note. MicroStrategy is certainly still purchasing Bitcoin, but this number does seem to be lessening over the last few months. Bitcoin itself actually seeing a decrease here in value. We're at lows of day below that 91.5 area, actually cracking below this previous support around that 92, just above 92,000. Next area of interest here would be this support that we got back. This would be mid to late November here, that area around 90.7. So keep an eye. We're about $1,000 removed from that level right now. So this could be a pretty interesting area of price action for crypto. Let's take a look here at some of these other crypto names. Bitcoin down about 3%, of course. Ethereum was actually holding up on the day. And interestingly enough, pulled a green week last week when Bitcoin couldn't. Right now, though, not green here, down about 2%, trying to hold on to 3,300. XRP down 8%. This is getting hit really hard. BNB and Solana both down about 4%. Cardano down about 7%. So lots of weakness in the crypto space in our second last day of the year. Make sure to like and subscribe if you're enjoying the content. Back to the boys.
Yeah, great look there. Adair, I use CoinGecko here to look a little bit. And I mean, Adair just ran through the ball, so there's not much for me to do here as well. But XRP, $2, like that got up to like 270 there on Gensler's ejection from the seat. And then, yeah, Solana is really the one that's been getting hammered. I mean, a lot of people jumped into this one way late. And now 186, like that was up to like 240, 250 for sure. Dogecoin there, we talked about that with my guy back there. Obi likes the Dogecoin, so we can watch out for that. But again, that was 41, 42 cents, now down to 30. Like there's a lot being taken out there. Cardano was 120 or so, down to 83 right now, hovering around like that 95 area was a pretty high level there for Cardano. But a lot of these names starting to come back in. So I would just say watch out for anybody that is in the crypto space right now and just looking to, maybe diversify a bit. I always think stay with the bigger guys. I know Joe has some thoughts, and that will be coming up very, very soon on the midday show in just 25 minutes.
I guess everything's always about time frame. Like if if you've been recently swinging Bitcoin, I can understand why this 92 level could get you out. But long term, I was waiting for a break of 92 to look for places to add. I'm kind of the opposite on BTC. Yeah. A couple of things here. One, we're back into Alphabet. It's bounced off VWAP. We'll zoom the other way. Bounced off VWAP a couple times. So it broke that local high, rejected. We're able to short, get some out of VWAP this time, which we probably should have done the first time. And as long as it holds, I know it's above VWAP, and sometimes that's not something that you want to go into for the short side. But then you zoom it out, it's underneath that support at 190.60. So Friday's lows, that goes all the way back into the 23rd. And then again on the 20th, it was holding this level. As long as it's underneath that, I want to keep taking the shots at it to the south side. And then here, I just missed it. Shoot. But it's Carl. Someone else had mentioned Rigetti, but I saw the last one was going to be Carl, and I just talked to Wayne back there. I know you had said it, but I didn't think it didn't register how far this had actually fallen. If these are going to continue, and I'm talking about the quantum names in particular, if you're going to have made a top here and start rolling over, you've got afternoon support from Boxing Day, which is at about $14 on this, but there's a couple of others that were already, I'd say, weaker than Rigetti. One of them is QBTS. Like when these guys said that quantum names were pulling back in, I was looking at that QBTS because it was a weaker bounce on Friday and it bottomed pretty much exactly at $9. So if this can hold underneath $9, I think a continuation short makes sense there. So the only thing I'm in right now is Google. Boeing might not be doing much of anything here, it looks like. It's kind of hanging out off those lows, obviously, with the bad news. Actually, you know what? It's actually bouncing back into the high. So no break of that 172 on Boeing. Right. We're just into Google at this particular point, and we'll hang on to this one as it tries to test back to the low of the day.
All right, we got I don't know, we got a new position. I just want to let people know because it's right here. We haven't, took on that Google. We took on a little bit of Nvidia here. I was just trying against this 50-period moving average. Like, I'm just wondering, we said that the market would probably test that one more time. I thought it would continue to go. It does test it there and does not continue to go. But I just, again, this is, looking at the net and making sure that you don't give, it all back or anything unreasonable here on what might be a shot play. So I'm just going to take a shot right now. We'll average it again if we get something up to 20 where it's been. But if you're just looking at Nvidia, we're still underneath. We are definitely in this channel. I'm early on this because what I was thinking is this break of VWAP is really where we want to get short. So I said, let's just put on a little bit now in case we're able to. We did get something down at 82 or something off of this. So we were short. Well, now we're short. Okay, now we're going to get stopped out. But where is my stop? Very, very soon. There it is, breaking. Did we get stopped out? Yeah, breaking through 40s. So, all right, so we'll slap a fail. Fine, but it's just, I just want to let everybody know I was trying that there and thinking more about there, getting in on the VWAP break, but we did want to test just a little bit. But look at that, there's the market. So this is what we had thought, maybe testing and then breaking and trying to go for a run. So if that's the case, man, being short any of these names is not going to be a winning material. So we will get out of that right now. We've already, like on Apple, this is going to look like it's a big candle up, but really we were very lucky. We talked about that, getting out. So some big moves to the downside there. And then even on AMD, it's trying to bounce back, but not as much as Nvidia. I hope we really didn't get, I don't think we got run at the top or anything there on Nvidia, but we're getting pretty close. I may put a small piece back on now, just in case that may have been the top, 137.50. We'll try that one more time.
Tesla back over 420, back above VWAP. We might be getting a bit of a bounce here, and there were a couple of questions about Watt here in the chat. It is halted. Current tap is 173. So like right in here, halted at 179. Downward halt on Watt. This is like the fifth or I don't know, you count up how many times. I have a scanner for that, I suppose. 6 times it's halted today, so just be careful. It probably will halt another half dozen times at the rate it's going. Certainly holding above VWAP and trending back to the upside. But in a downward halt, now the tap saying 174.
Yeah,
so
Nvidia is going.
Yeah, Google Alphabet just retested, came 20 cents in the money, and then broke the local high. So the same level that we're looking at for resistance, that Friday low, it held a couple of times, could not break VWAP, and now you're breaking out above VWAP. So once it gets through the stop, I got to jump out. I don't want to fight this.
Oh, boy.
Suddenly you're starting to see some strength in this market to the upside. So yeah, there goes Tesla looking really strong overall at 420 now. At 422, this looks like a long over 420 now. It's an over-under play. I've only played the under with some success. Let's go to Adara. Time to see what other sectors are strong, because the Nasdaq is certainly coming back.
I wish I could sit here and tell you any sector is strong, but I think looking here, it's pretty clear that we are weak quite literally across the board. The one sector where there's a little bit of a hope spot is going to be energy minerals. A couple of green names here. We know the energy space has been on watch with that massive pop in UNG amidst some Russia and Ukraine talks, as well as the fact that we're apparently poised for a pretty cold first half of January. So keep an eye on some of these energy mineral names. Other than that, super weak market here. Consumer durables, even with Tesla's bounce, still down about 2%. Consumer services, producer manufacturing, health technology, consumer non-durables, finance, retail trade is really red here. Keep an eye on Walmart. Ahead of this, we're expecting a decision out of India with regards to Walmart and Google and their payment processes in terms of the market share they have there. Then commercial services weak, health services weak, and electronic technology interesting here. Nvidia, the lone shining star of an otherwise very red semiconductor sector. Nvidia does have some catalysts here with their humanoid robot chips. This Jetson Thor, which can be used in the humanoid robots, is set to be released early 2025, as reported by Financial Times. In terms of consumer services, technology services, this is weak across the board. So very few hope spots on this sector, guys.
Break.
What is Tesla?
GameStop.
Oh, GameStop.
GameStop is very, very close to that 33 break. Just one note on GameStop. The high on, it wasn't Friday, the high on, I guess it would be, Boxing Day, was 33.08. So the local high break for me is if it breaks 33.10, not necessarily 33, but double top here today, and then triple top if you look at a 15-minute chart. This dark pool wick, whatever, like that's kind of a bogus wick in there. We care more about the consolidation here at the 33 level. So it looks like the break is potentially back on for GameStop. No particular catalyst, it just happens to be going. Tesla is now trying to hold above 420 and VWAP pulling back in. Let's see if it can bounce. When there's a supply zone like this on Tesla, you can see it at that 420. If it's going to hold above, got to at least look for some longs. We're short bias, so we didn't trade it till it was underneath. But now that it's above, got to start looking for some long opportunities. Palantir suddenly looking strong. Boeing, which we liked to the south side, it's holding VWAP, so it's not really setting up for any kind of a short. I feel like it's going to be Tesla. That looks like it's going to be next. So just trying to play a little bit of patience here. And we got a couple of super chats while we're away. One of them from Elite Services Ads. I like that one.
Yeah.
Your son's birthday.
Boom.
Your son's 8 years old today.
Kaboom.
Titus Reeves. So shout out to you. Happy birthday. Appreciate you, appreciate all our viewers, and a big happy birthday. 8, that's a great age. Just sort of coming in your own there, so I love that one. We're parents as well. That's what we do it for here. So thank you so much for supporting, and everyone give a big shout out to your son there, Titus. And Bobby Winggood, RVSN ripping today, long from 140 in ideas on a target off of this bounce. All we can ever do is pull up the chart and give you the look there from what we can see. So I will pull up RVSN. Come on, Tesla, get to VWAP. We'd love to be able to get back into that one, actually for the first time to the long side. RVSN, load. Maybe the 15's already loaded.
There you go.
Yeah, the 15's going to be a better look anyways. I always say these ones, can you hold on to VWAP when you're stair-stepping to the upside? So the stair-step would be hold prior day high, which is the morning high at 150. It's not really a ton of volume, but it is holding on to VWAP and holding on to that 150. What I generally don't like about these for like afternoon plays or lunchtime plays is trying to get the long while the volume is pretty much dead. So sometimes you can get that flush through VWAP and then try and grab the long off the 150 level instead of chasing some of those highs because the volume's not giving you what you'd like to see ultimately on RVSN. Kind of a later day play. Like usually look for these to start moving again at like 1 o'clock as definitely tapering off here volume-wise.
All right, Titus, you are awesome. Happy birthday to you, my guy there, Titus. Thank you for the super chat, and thanks, Neil, for covering that. All right, we feel a little smarter about ourselves now than we did a couple minutes ago. We flipped over to the long on Nvidia. So we will take an L, obviously, as you had saw me short pretty ridiculously over and over and over again there on Nvidia. But okay, now we're back into the short, or back into the long, sorry. We are holding this. I do have an offer at 97. It started to go like that meme crazy, which is why I punched into the long. And then it kind of stopped a little bit. It just kept on like taking out all these offers. And right now it's having a hard time in and around this 138. I do think once it takes 138, it's blast off and it's up, and away. But still got to get into those levels. So we'll watch out for that one. I mean, look, pullbacks in. I want to be long against VWAP here. So I'm not getting out of this until it breaks through 136.50. So we're averaging in. Like if this comes back in, look for something at the 50 period, then look for something in and around 137, then the average in. We are now 2 pennies away. There we go. Did we get it? Oh no, we got to reload there on AMD. We might have to watch out for this play because we're long on Nvidia. We just missed that 97. Went to 95s. Maybe we'll, there it is. Okay, finally. All right, let's watch out for AMD. The reason is that I did have another short up here on AMD, but we got to be as careful as you know what on this one because we're already long what we thought was a better stock there with Nvidia. So let's just sort of lick our wound a little bit here. Well, not licking any wounds. AMD is a good stock for us. But let's just get some more out here. If it does fall back in, we just reloaded this into the 40s. We're going to start to take some out right now at 40 as this falls back just a little bit. Nvidia is also falling in a little bit here. So, all right, it looks like we did fail up there at O's. So that was 138. We have an out. We have 97s there. So that was good. And now it looks like we're getting pay dirt now on AMD. So yeah, we're a little worried about that. But it looks like Nvidia right now falling from graces. AMD now falling from graces as well. So nice little move back in on the chip names. Okay. Net not really changing because we were able to get that AMD trade, which is going a little lower than I had thought. So I'm going to take out some more here on AMD and just wait to see what can happen there. We just shorted this name right there at 50. So 30 cents in the money on AMD, but Nvidia gave back 50 cents. So wash there, but I want to get longer Nvidia anyways.
Oh, and it just as I was typing into the chat, Palantir was already at 70. I didn't realize how quickly this had gotten into that 78 level again. But it just did a mean revert, tried to grab it, and obviously it was screaming like everything else in the market, but bouncing off VWAP. There's your double top high. This was the close of the bar underneath that trend line that it had just put in, so obviously looking like a short back into 78. The local high is 78.06 for everyone that's interested. If I do get short back on the way through Palantir, I'll look for VWAP as an exit point. And obviously, it's now trending to the upside. I think you can pretty much clearly see a V-shape. It's a V-shape recovery on Palantir. So if it puts in a higher low, you respect it and then try to look for that long. But it's still, to me, it's a short because it's underneath that 78 level. We'll try to pick it back up. But on the dips, let's see if Tesla can actually hold on to this 420. That's the key level that we've been concerned with. and it's now starting to pull back into 420. This is a time of day where I don't want to catch the falling knife. I want it to give us the rounded bottom off this 420 level and VWAP. Might have missed Palantir, but by the time I realized it was at 78, it was kind of already on the way back into the downside. And Bitcoin holding above 92,000 all of a sudden. I guess maybe there is some strength coming back into the crypto names. I feel like Boeing is come and gone in the opportunities to trade that one. So I'm going to stay away from that. And, okay, Tesla's not even holding on to VWAP. So it's right back underneath VWAP here on Tesla. And I know we had gotten a question about Intel, whether, hey, Intel do something. Well, Intel did something, popped to VWAP, and on a dime turned like within 1 cent of VWAP. Sometimes it's just as simple as weak stock, short it, and short the continuation. If it wants to start holding VWAP, I like that usually as a lunchtime trade. So if I can't get into Palantir, which I might have missed the opportunity at 78, it's at 77.5, there's always just scalp trading Intel off of VWAP at 19.9 that's going to come into play. So just still Tesla and Palantir that we're interested in. And let's take care of some business with eSignal, Sean.
Yeah, I showed you a little bit of the trade rate and some of the scanners that eSignal does have available, so make sure you do check those out when you get a chance to. eSignal rate here, one of the best. Trade smarter, not harder. Upgrade to an elite experience. If charting has been, on your mind or something that, you've been looking for an upgrade with or anything like that, I would definitely recommend heading over to eSignal Infinite Data Instant Trading charts that really you can chart anything. So to me, they do change the game, and all those instant algorithmic trade ideas, they do have those built in as well. There's back testing, which can help you. There's the scanning right there. Yeah, obviously you can make little notes. Anything to do with stock Twitch, you can easily retweet or post up any of your ideas on there as well. I really appreciate the fact that it's entitlement based, so you can get going on various you can get various accounts going. So you want to trade the pink sheets, you want to trade Canada, anything like that, it's all available. Okay, we are getting, we took some 50 period there on Nvidia. We could have took 137, we didn't. I was actually waiting, now that I'm looking at this, 136.85 is where I'm sort of sitting down. That was sort of where VWAP is, like VWAP's at 70s there. So I was going to say, like, if I do take it and we do wind up losing on this, it'd be a breakdown below like 136.50, give it a little bit of room. So I wanted to get the bulk of the position, like an average in, like a proper average in, down closer to that 136.80 area or so, just so that if and when the market bleeds out, we have enough exposure at the right prices. Because the thing is like, we still have this big trade on board now as well, AMD, trying to break through 123. Actually, I'll put another bid right here at 05s just to take some off, because it's a hedge, but I am planning on getting more Nvidia. So I want to see if we can be right on both angles of this trade. But all right, let's go back over to Adara at the desk.
We're going to do here is take a look at the U.S. dollar, which is in quite the bull flag on the daily chart. We had this nice push up here starting December 5th. This big green candle gave us another second wind here, and that would be the day of the FOMC meeting, where we did basically have a more hawkish tone than expected. The Fed projecting, I guess previously than expected or hoped for, cuts for 2025. So moving the market down, but giving the dollar a push. Now here we have another nice green candle with a little bit of bottoming tail action here as well. As of right now, above that 108.3 levels. This is the highest level we've been at in about a week for the DXY. Higher than expected pending home sales month over month for November. The year-over-year print was also higher than expected. And it's also worth noting here, Chicago PMI actually much lower than expected, 36.9 versus the estimate of 42.7. It's going to be a bit of a lighter day for economic data tomorrow, of course, New Year's Eve. But then on Thursday, we're to come right back swinging after the market holiday. Initial jobless claims bright and early at 8:30 a.m. Then at 10 a.m. we'll get construction spending data. And then on Friday, quite a few numbers at 10 a.m. with ISM manufacturing PMI, a couple other ISM PMI data. And at 11 a.m. on Friday, we're going to be getting our first Fed speaker in quite some time. Keep an eye out for comments from Fed's Barkin. So even though earlier this week, a little bit slower as we do have the wrapping up of this year, should be a little bit interesting as we head into the first couple of days of January. Also, the CME Fed Watch tool, which I always want to draw some attention to. Now we have 88.8% of participants expecting no cut in January. This number has actually gone down. As of last week, we were expecting 93.6% of participants expecting no cut. So now we have a few more people here, a total of 11.2%, expecting that 25 basis point cut in January. It's basically been all but foretold we're not going to be getting that cut, but we'll have to wait and see because we know the Fed can surprise us if that shock 50 basis point cut in September is any indication. Make sure to like and subscribe. Back to you guys.
You, Adara. We're getting some nice little rallies back. Right now, let's go Nvidia. So I was just like, you know what? Let me take a little piece there at 137. So we do that right now, and that's 50 cents now as we go back into the money on this trade finally on Nvidia. Look, it's only 10 cents. I'm not super excited about it, but we are very excited because we were able to get some AMDs also at the 50-period moving average. So we were a little nervous right when we first got it. We talked about that because we were starting the long there in Nvidia, but we play the weak name in the chip sector, and now we are out of more than half of this trade and punching out more right there at 05 because I really want Zeus to go. If Nvidia goes, oh boy, we're waiting at 60s right now to get out of a piece. If we can do that, which is coming up right now, maybe if we spin this, we'll get a 60 fill. We'll see if we can do that right now. There it is. Okay, that worked. There's the 60 fill now as Nvidia is starting to go a little ham right now. Hopefully we can end the day where we need to be at the highest spot so far. There it goes. Monster move, Neil, on Nvidia coming all the way up. Let's see if we can get all the way back. I'm at 77. I'm going to take something out here at 70s. Looks like it wants to try to resist that. Oh no, that's crazy. It just went to 75. We're at 77. I don't know why. Let's see if Nvidia keeps it going. So good couple trades there. 30 cents now in the money on Nvidia.
Yeah, it's the only one that looks like a long to me.
Yeah.
Everything else is looking incredibly weak. Tesla tried to actually, you know what? Tesla didn't try to bounce at 420. I was about to say it did not. It flushed through. There was never any support at the 420 level. So as far as I'm concerned, over under, when it's under means look back for the short. The first consolidation is under 419. So we're going to jump back over to that. Palantir bounced off of VWAP. So we're not short Palantir yet. Either it loses VWAP or we get a retest of that 78 high. Starting to get into a bit of a patience mode, not wanting to, I don't want to chase anything too far that's away from the price area that we want to trade. And I don't want to jump into some kind of a new name that isn't giving us a good setup. So one of those is suddenly, okay, never mind. GameStop back underneath VWAP. It's trying to claim VWAP again. I still like a breakout. But if this can hold above VWAP, maybe a joiner into GameStop, just because it's lunchtime, and I'd rather be moving to something that can give you that juice even if the market does nothing, which does lead me to that. So just still want to stick around with Tesla, that 420 level. I feel like it's the key. And now that you might be testing back under it again, we'll look for the short. And again, this setup, it took a while to set up underneath 420. I'll be the first to admit, if you were looking bullish over 420 this morning, you were doing much better on Tesla, but it still works to that short. It's about to retest with a little bit of strength here on TSLA. And then the other name which we were talking about, of course, was Palantir. I might be inclined to take a triple top breakout on Palantir, but until it breaks it, I will still short that 78 level. 78.10 goes, I don't mind taking a breakout trade. But we'll take it this third time into that 78 top. It's already worked for us once. Let's see if we can get it again.
Oh, boy. 92 and change now. Look, we hit the money when this thing was at 60. Now it's at 95s. All right. Apple 50 cents, AMD 30 cents, FFIE 40 cents, and Nvidia now the biggest position by far. Nvidia, I'll talk about my own share size. Like right now I have 10x Nvidia, everything else. So there it goes right now to the upside. And again, you can ask us in the chat, just tag us. You can ask us about our positions. You can see them on the board as well. If you want to know like how weighted we are into them or something like that, you can definitely do that. All right, so there's another couple outs for me at 90s. It's failed up here a couple times. We'll take $1. This is $1 right there because we just rolled that back up at 137. It's not $1 on our average price, of course. We'll wait to see now if we can get above this 138. I mean, there's a 139 fill coming. I mean, the market has to figure itself out, right? I mean, there's 138.60, 130. I think we can get to that. There's the drop-off zone that we've been through. Now back up. If we could take that at 139, that's sort of where we're looking at from Friday. I got the day right there. Nice move back in. And there's the break of 138. And man, oh man, are we cooking right now? This has been a good one. I was I got to get back and start swimming a little bit here, but I don't really want to leave these positions. All right, I'm going to take out some more here at 06s as we just climbed above. All right, a little bit of a fallout. We'll take some 93s. There it is on this one, but hopefully we can get back above into the O's one more time. There it is. We just got 96s now. Back above that 138 mark. There it goes. All right, good. So I'm at 138.06 to take a piece out there, and then we just let it ride. And I may change because I got to get out of here. I was going to wait to average in a little bit more. Thankfully, we didn't need to do that, so we make all the money now. Maybe 137.50 break, something like that back. Oh, yeah, there's the 06 break. Maybe something like that back in. So, yeah, so far so good here for Nvidia. You know, lost on it early, making some back here as we just noticed the momentum. We take that from our past experiences of day trading. You know, reading the level 2s and being able to do all of that. And then that's just seeing that. We've called Nvidia going meme crazy sometimes. And that's what I felt like it started to do there to the upside. It's such an aggressive stock today, up 0.7. And yeah, so I think that it'll be bought up on any strength, and that appears to be what's happening. It's why we had AMD written down here as the short. And we'll be up, right now we're up more money on AMD than we are on Nvidia on the day. It's just Nvidia's trying to take that over right now. So nice move there. There it is. Now it's an official Dollar Club winner as Nvidia's going ham right now to the upside.
Yeah, Nvidia continues to be the strong one. It is the champion. Maybe there was a catalyst on it, and I don't think it was a big deal, but Nvidia is that darling stock. And at one point I was going to mention, we were talking about the chips. There's a huge disparity between SMH. And it really just comes, SMH holds twice as much in terms of weighting in Nvidia versus, what's the other one I'm looking for?
Soxel?
The SOX.
Yeah.
And that's the big difference, and that's the biggest differentiation that those two indices have ever had all time. There is another, now the stock won't load, this LPSN. Here we go. LPSN, another runner. It's a dollar hold, almost exactly, and breaking higher. So another big mover on a small cap. I saw a few people talking about this one. Doesn't have too much price history around here. The only new trade we got back into was an older one, and it was right at that 78 double top here on Palantir. If it gets to VWAP, we'll take it. We've already started scalping into 77.5, but it's just this simple line. If this can break back above the high, then I want to respect double top in a triple top, and I think it has room to go 78, maybe to 79, 79.5, something along those lines. But until that happens, we'll stick with the short on Palantir. Once it held that lower high again at 77.8, we jump back into the trade. So just trying to stick with the names that we liked earlier that are still setting up. And now it's 11 o'clock. This is what happens. GameStop's back above VWAP. I'm going to go long off VWAP here on Jimmy. And then if it breaks out the top, that'll be a separate trade on GameStop.
Yeah, Sharif just showed me something. I think Adair's going to try to confirm this, but apparently the stock market's going to be closed Jan 9th, so next week, for Jimmy Carter's. I've never really seen them do that.
Before President's Day?
I don't. Sharif just showed it to me. He just showed it to me. So that would be. You know, I like the day off, obviously, but I like the trade. But anyways, day off, maybe, potentially. We'll just confirm it. Yeah. I'm not, Sharif showed, I mean, so from Yahoo.
Yeah, I believe you.
Pretty solid source there. So we'll confirm that as we go. But oh boy, man, Nvidia continues to go higher and higher, and AMD continues to go lower. We've got on the perfect hedge, man. We're long this name and short this name. Come on. So far, so good with Apple working out as well. Hey, thanks for a great show, everybody. There's Faraday Futures again, going back to the upside. Oh, shit, I got to get out of here. All right, see everybody. It's been a blast. I just offered Faraday, so we'll get out some here at 61. I'll see you on the flip side. Good show there, Neil.
Have a good swim.
Yeah, well, if I can get there. All right, is it raining, Sharif?
You can get there.
Drizzling, okay.
Yeah, you'll be fine.
No, water. What am I made of sugar over here? All right, we'll see everybody soon. See you at 2.
Take it easy, guys. There's a bunch of people reporting this. See, but
what is up, beautiful people? Welcome to the Midday Show. That right there is your boy Joey Options, and I'm Sharif, even though I'm wearing my glasses today.
Still
Excuse me.
Still Sharif.
Yeah, I know, right? Hey, we're both wearing glasses. I didn't even notice that. We're gonna